consumed. Adrenaline rush, heartbeats race, the thrill of speed taking place. Defend the lead, it's not a chase. Gran Turismo sets the pace. Under moonlit skies we soar. Every pass makes spirits roar. Defending honor, never bored.
Welcome to the Nighthawk Racing F1 RST Championship. Firstly, I'm Sarah Hawkey, and you can find myself and the rest of our community here on the Nighthawk Racing YouTube channel. There are various features and playlists for you to watch and enjoy, covering non-championship events, mini-series racing, and our main series of F1 RST with seasons 1 through to 4 with full coverage and commentary available to watch. All races also feature great competitive action alongside community and team racing, leaving many smiles as well as thrills and spills. Please also check out our Instagram and TikTok in the description below, or you can use the QR code across the video that will provide you with the link tree, more content and information for you to have a scan through as well. Before we get into the racing itself, here is an outline of the racing and the championship and what to expect in Season 5. So as you can see on screen at the moment, we have a 10 event calendar featuring red and blue lobby racing, and you can see that we go to many different tracks across the season, all tracks presenting themselves with unique characteristics, so it should be a pretty fun season ahead, and I can't wait to see how all the drivers get on. We're talking about the events itself. There are 2 races per event, with a sprint race which will last approximately 20 minutes and then a feature race at 1 hour to 65 minutes respectively. The grid for the sprint race is ordered in reverse average points scored across the season. Up next is the main feature race, which is supported by a 10-minute qualifying session. Qualifying itself is highly important, as not only does it set the outright grid for the feature race, but competitors have to begin their strategic calls in qualifying, as when the driver sets their fastest lap, the compound of tyre they use for that fastest lap then becomes their mandatory tyre compound for the start of the feature race. So as you can see, strategy is important, especially during qualifying. But here in F1 RST, every session is important and also comes with its own rewards. Both racing events come with increasing points for each position gained, as well as the potential of fastest lap points to be earned for those finishing within the top 10. Qualifying itself also rewards the top 3 positions with a little extra dynamic thought and strategy throughout the event and season. So as you can tell, points make prizes. As a reminder for all, sprint races have completely open strategy calls and tyre choices with a rolling start. But the feature race, on top of the qualifying start tyre compound requirement, has a grid start, and all drivers must use 2 different choices of tyre compounds. Today we are racing around one of our probably most favourite tracks on GT7. We've raced it numerous times. It's the Red Bull Ring, and it is based in the Australian Alps. It's a real life circuit because obviously we've seen many action from the Formula 1 Grand Prix that have been held here. But onto the track itself, giving you a bit more track facts. The circuit length is 4.3 kilometres or 2.6 miles long, with about 9 turns in total, and it is what we consider a mid-speed track. But the track itself offers a mix of straights and challenging corners, including some tricky technical sectors and sausage curbs that must be taken carefully and obviously navigated to avoid penalties, and obviously maintaining high speeds around the track. Again, try not to get any penalties because you can pick them up really easily here. But the Australian's premium circuit has lived through a number of periods. Obviously we've seen it change names numerous times, but it's most famously known for holding the country's Formula 1 round. Now under the management and ownership of Red Bull, the circuit has gone through various different changes, but today it hosts a full roster of events from Formula 1 to MotoGP, and obviously past events have included the European Truck Series and the European Le Mans Series. So it's a track that's seen many of action, and today it's going to see the Nighthawk Racing action.
And a quick look at the championship standings before we get into the actual racing. Katie Nakai taking a 62-point lead early doors ahead of Fodder with 98 points. Kurlios, the Englishman, at 98 points, taking a very strong lead to Season 5 here today. Top 3 doing very well. In the next third, only covered by 23 points. Iceman on 59 points, down to our very own Sarah Hawkey on 36. Everything very much still to play for here at the Red Bull Ring. And welcome to F1 RSC's third round Blue Lobby here at Red Bull Ring. So, first up, we have Sturdy Motorsport in that Viper. He'll be on pole position for the rolling start. Then, followed up by our very own Super Simon in that M6. In third, we have the Welsh Smurf in that Ford GT. In P4, we have Murph in that amazing liveried Supra. In fifth, we have Degen Cypher in the Lamborghini. And in sixth, we have Damo in that black and green 911. And then we have the returning Joe Nisbet in P7 in that Ford GT also. Sarah, can you take the next few, please?
Yes, of course I can. So in P8, we have Coach in the Supra. And then in P9, just behind, we have Kirk in the very purple Genesis. Not too far behind, we have a Chaos Druid in the Lexus. Also joining him in another Lexus, we have Citily in P11. In P12, we have our very own big crazy Bertie in that McLaren. And then also one of our very own, we have Ziggy in P13, so the admin crew holding out the back of the sprint race grid here. And then in P14 we have Lyle in the Ferrari 458. That rounds off our sprint grid midnight.
It does indeed, and it looks like we might have quite a race on our hands here today. There's a few drivers I really want to be keeping an eye on in there, the top 7 to begin with. Degen Cypher and Joe Nisbet look like they could have a really good race round here, but I think we're all going to have to be keeping an eye out for Kirk, who's got a lot of form around here in that Genesis particularly, and our very own big crazy Bertie has also previously had wins around this track in F1 RST. Anyone that springs to mind that you want to be keeping an eye on?
Oh, apart from the people that you mentioned, I'd say one to maybe watch out is Citily around here. Ziggy, having a bit of a thing. I'd like to see how kind of the newcomers get on, especially the guys in the Ford GTs, because obviously Red Bull is a fan favourite for us especially, but it's not got that many top end speed sections. So obviously we know the Ford GT is pretty good on top end speed, but is it going to be good around a bit more of a technical course? We shall see. But I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see how everyone gets on. I think especially this sprint grid, it could be could set us up for quite an interesting race.
Quite right, and I think you've raised a very interesting point about the Ford GT there, but we have to see what cars can really utilise all of the straights around here and get out those corners nicely. But with that in mind, let's hand over to the commentators and go straight to the grid. Good luck all the drivers out on track tonight.
Right, so join us for round 3 here at Red Bull Ring. You join us at the Blue Lobby Sprint Race, and we've got Sturdy in that Dodge Viper in pole position at the moment, just about to go over the start of finish line with Simon just behind, and Welsh Smurf in that Ford GT in 3rd place. Everyone looks like they've got a pretty clean getaway at the moment. Smurf looking for an early move on Simon and gets that move done and dusted, and is now into P2, with Murph making a little move on the inside as well as Cypher on Simon. Anything that you've spotted so far, Midnight?
No, just what you've seen so far. It does look like the mid-pack are all bunched up. We've got Kirk, who's made up a couple of places already, and is challenging for he's into 6th, challenging for 5th into this corner. Coach looks like he had a little bit of a laggy getaway. He's dropped right into the mid-pack. Simon off pole down to 6th, but like you say, up front, Sturdy in that Viper, getting a bit of a breakaway. Welsh Smurf following him through with Murph, and now Degen challenging for that 3rd place of his.
Yeah, obviously some early position swaps so far, and I was just having a look a little bit further back as well. It looked like that some people at the back coming into that turn 2, turn 3, whichever corner you want to call it. There's a little bit of kind of stopping and letting people through, and some people run a little bit wide, which dropped them a few positions. But Simon here is getting overtaken by Damo and Coach following him through as well. Simon doing well so far, holding that P8 position, but Druid and Joe not too far behind, with Bertie following the tail as well. Everyone seems quite bunched up at the moment, which is good to see.
Yeah, and we got a lot of action. Oh, though we've just had some contact from Kirk on Degen, and Degen's ended up in the pit lane. That is going to be a shooting investigation there, but Kirk managed to keep on going. Degen's ended up going through the pit lane, almost having a drive-through for no fault of his own on that one. But up front, we still got Sturdy, who is in P1, going defensive, keeping that P1 so far. Murph up to P2, Kirk up to P3, but will surely be incurring the wrath of the stewards on that one. But Coach has come out of nowhere up to P4. I don't know what, he was 9th last time I saw him.
Yeah, making some sneaky moves there was Coach, especially in that that snake-looking livery that he's got on that Supra. Although Smurf making Coach go a little bit wide there, obviously losing that P4 again, but I'm sure Coach will be able to get it back again. But Kirk looks like he's on the back of Murph here. But yeah, obviously just with that pit lane incident with Cypher, obviously we won't know until after the race about what's happened there. But talking about, talking about that. Bertie going into the gravel, maybe a little bit of contact there again with some of the drivers. But I was just having a look at Sturdy. He's still managing to hold off Murph for the moment. Kirk giving a little bump to Murph there. But it's good to see Sturdy holding everyone behind him at the moment.
Yeah, he's done well, leading what might be his second lap here through the sprint. He looks like he's very good defensively, and it's worth saying a lot of the drivers on those soft tyres getting that grip in the initial laps. Kirk running that medium, looks like he's playing the longer game. Same with Welsh, Murph and Coach, but we have to wait and see. Murph has gotten into P1 in the final corner. We have to hope for him that Murph can make a gap to those medium drivers before his tyres go off. But it does look like coming across the line. We've got Coach up to 4th, Kirk just up into 2nd into the first corner, and Kirk picking up a half-second penalty. Coach running a bit wide as well, but that whole gaggle of cars coming through all the way down to 9th to 10th, down to Italy, all in a big bunch. But we do see Kirk in up to turn 3, thinking about a move on Murph.
Yeah, I was just having a look at Sturdy there. I think he caught quite drivers out by surprise there. He did some quite harsh braking going into that first corner, and unfortunately, obviously, it did see him drop quite far down the grid, unfortunately. But it looks like we may have actually lost. Oh no, he's still there. He's still going in 13th. I thought we potentially lost Sturdy there, but he's still going. But yeah, a bit of an incident at turn 1 has dropped him all the way down to 13th. But having a quick look across the grid, everyone seems to be trying to settle into the race now. Talking about that, Kirk goes into P1, managed to get a move on Murph on the outside. But that penalty there will come to bite Kirk here, as obviously Murph will go back into that first place.
Yeah, and as Kirk serves it there, but he's going to be on the inside for the upcoming corner. He's going to be, he has to let that one go. Murph takes the position back, and Kirk might pick up another half-second penalty for running wide in the final corner. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But Coach up into P3.
Yep,
Kirk,
does.
Yeah, Kirk gets a half-second penalty. It's going to leave him vulnerable to Coach. And once we know Coach is in front of you, he is exceptionally hard to overtake. So Kirk's not going to want that to happen anytime soon. But at the moment, Kirk getting a swapper on coming out of the first corner, followed by Coach and Druid, an ever-watchful 4th place there. But looking at the group behind, Damo, Smurf, and Joe Nesbitt and Sicily all together coming up to turn 3. But at the moment, Coach does get that move done on Kirk, and Druid is closing in on the pair of them. It's all over the tracks here.
It is at the moment. I was just keeping on top of that battle between Damo and the Welsh Smurf there. Sicily made up a position on Joe Nesbitt as well. But Welsh Smurf looks like he's holding off Damo in that Porsche at the moment. But this could heat up between the two. Oh, a little bit of braking contact between Smurf, Damo and Sicily there. But Sicily in that Lexus looking to try and get past Damo here if he can. But going back to that penalties, I think unfortunately this track does. You do see a lot of drivers pick up those penalties because track limits around here, they're a little bit strict, shall we say. I don't think Kirk will be the only one getting those penalties so far, like during the race here today.
I completely agree. One thing I'm noticing is Kirk is very loose on that rear end of that Genesis X, so he's going to have to be very careful for the rest of this race. But serving that half-second penalty, coach up to P2, those 3 drivers in the top 4 on medium tyres, Murph's going to have to make a break for it to try and hold on to a podium position. But looking at that gaggle behind her, that looks like where the race is at the moment. People vying over that 5th spot.
Yeah, with the 2 Ford GTs having a little bit of a battle there. Oh, and looked like Joe got a little bit kind of squeezed into the corner. But yeah, obviously we know the Ford GT is quite good on a straight line. But Sicily makes a move on Joe, but Joe looks to the inside here. Will he potentially look for a move here? He looks like he's setting himself up for a move, but obviously very tight line going into this apex. May have caught Lara a little bit out by surprise there, but Sicily manages to hold off that P7 at the moment and holds that Ford GT back a little bit. But having a little look, Ziggy has managed to get onto the back of this little group here, so he could potentially make up a few moves here midnight.
Yeah, and if
saying that he's gone on the gravel a little bit, which does lose him a little bit of time and lets Bertie, a good friend, past. And Bertie's now on the back of this little group of cars we've got.
Yeah, and worth saying from a lap or 2 ago, we did see Bertie off in the runoff, and it looks like a potential failed move or contact into that corner at that time, but Bertie recovering nicely to battle with our Ziggy. Up front, Murph running very wide into the final corner. That is easily going to be another half-second penalty, and it looks like Coach will inherit the lead. He might even get it done before the start-finish line. I did see up to turn 3, Druid was making a move on Kirk, but has now fallen back. But Kirk has just got to be patient, make sure he puts that power down correctly, and he's going to inherit second as Murph gets a little bit of a swap on coming out of turn 1. But there you go, a little patience has worked, and Kirk up to P2 to fight Coach. As we know, Coach is very, very hard to overtake, so good luck to Kirk on that one. But looking a little bit further back, we have a couple of drivers making their way up the field. One to keep a watch on is Lyle in P9, taking that move on Joe. It does look like at the moment Damo heading this group of cars at the moment, made a break for it in 5th in that 911, Sarah.
Yeah, and Sicily also making a move on Smurf as well in that Ford GT, but Sicily unfortunately has got a half-second penalty, so he has to try and generate a big enough gap between himself and Smurf to keep that P6. Oh, narrowly avoids the gravel there, does Sicily, but unfortunately that does let Smurf back through, but I'm sure Sicily will be able to get that move done and dusted again soon. It looks like Joe has unfortunately lost a few positions as well. Ziggy making up a few positions, which is good to see, with Bertie going on the outside of Joe here, potentially eyeing up a move. He goes for it now. This is quite a hard section to make a move done, because obviously the car wants to drag you a certain way, so Bertie having to fight that Mclaren to get past Joe here. Obviously, like you say, doing a good recovery drive to get back up, especially to this group of cars. Like you say, obviously a small track like this, it's quite hard once you have that incident to get back on the group of cars. Talking about incidents, just having a look at Cypher down in 14th, obviously no fault of his own, but good to see him carrying on in the race.
Yeah, unfortunate incident for DJ and Cypher there and Kirk, but we have to say that Kirk has probably got a penalty coming his way, and even if he finishes P1, that will be one for the stewards to see if he keeps it or not. The moves going on across the field. Welsh Smurf with a half-second penalty, Sicily directly behind, previously serving a half-second penalty and dropping behind Smurf. That is the nature of this track though, isn't it, Sarah? Those penalties, they add up through the race, and they cause you a lot of bother, one would say.
They do a bit of a I think they cause a bit of headaches for these drivers here. Obviously the nature of the track is it wants to bring you wide, but you don't want to go too wide that the steward's going to pull you out for a track limit penalty. But unfortunately I think it's going to catch quite a few drivers out, especially obviously in the feature race, because doing a lot of repeated laps, sometimes if you let that concentration just slip just even a little bit, it's easy to pick up those track limit penalties. But hopefully the sprint race will set the drivers up. They know where those track limit penalties will occur, and we'll see maybe a few drivers not getting those penalties. Although, unfortunately, it does look like Murph might pick up another one. He did go quite wide coming out of the final 2 corners. So, unfortunately, I think that might be it's another half-second penalty for Murph here. Although Murph's still in a respectable P4, so let's see if he can keep that. Obviously, we're 7 laps in at the moment, so just over halfway. And I don't know about you, Midnight, but this race has been nothing but action so far.
It has. It might start calming down a little bit now, as we've got some of those drivers on the softer tyres starting to feel the wear a little bit. So that'd be Murph in P4, who was passed by Druid a couple of laps ago. Kirk still getting wide, picking up those half-second penalties. And as we can see Lyle and Smurf having another go at each other into turn 3. So, okay, maybe it isn't going to be a bit quieter. It's just going to be... It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be very loud for the rest of the race. You see 30 now joining that battle as well, with Joe just behind. But I'll rephrase. Maybe the top couple are spread out a little bit, but we've still got 3 or 4 laps to go, and we've still got a lot of action to go.
Yeah, as we see Smurf dive into the inside there, trying to get a move done on Lyle. But the two going side by side into this sector here. Smurf on the inside, Lyle on the outside. It looks like Lyle's just got ahead, although Smurf is pulling back. And the two still side by side. This section here is not easy to race side by side. It looks like Lyle nearly goes into the gravel. But yeah, a good battle between these two. And like you say, Bertie just looking behind, potentially eyeing up if those drivers in front make a mistake. He'll capitalise on that for sure.
Yeah, Bertie's going to have to be careful. He's also going to be running out of tyres soon. That's unfortunate. So how do you view that incident for Will Smurf?
Very similar to the incident we saw earlier, although Smurf manages to get himself out of that pit lane where Cypher couldn't. But yeah, I think obviously, like you say, the nature of this track, it's especially those last couple of corners, it's easy when you're racing in such close proximity to even tag each other a little bit. But yeah, unfortunately, obviously Smurf being on the raw end of that deal there, obviously losing a bit of time to that group of cars, but we've still got 3 laps to go. I'm sure he can catch up again. He's been driving well so far, and we see Lyle unfortunately losing a few more positions after that little tangle with Smurf. He's currently P10 behind Joe Nesbitt here. It looks like he's trying to regain himself and fight for a few battles again. But yeah, unfortunate for Smurf, but I'm sure he can fight back.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed, Kirk wide again. Well, not wide, but a bit loose on the rear end. But one thing I noticed with Lyle into that turn 3 is going over that curbing into turn 3. You lose a lot of time because the car is up in the air, and traditionally the car doesn't accelerate when the wheels aren't touching the ground. So that inside line isn't always working for drivers around here today. But keeping an eye on the drivers for P4 and 5, Murph and Damo. Damo has now caught Murph. I see Murph picking up a couple of penalties, a little bit of contact through the final corner. Damo has let off the throttle, let him back through. Unfortunately, let Sicily through at the same time. That's always a bit of a close call.
I was going to say, I think Sicily was like, thank you very much, I'll take both of you on here. And he does, although it looks like Murph coming out of turn 1 has managed to put on the accelerator just that little bit sooner than Sicily, but that he does pick up a half-second penalty because he did go a little bit too wide. So I think Sicily obviously will be aware that P4 will be his very shortly when they cross that penalty serving zone. And even potentially before that, as Sicily looked like he got a better exit coming out of that corner, foot all the way down to the floor here, trying to get that overtake done on Murph before that penalty zone. And it looks like they're going obviously side by side here. Sicily's got the upper ground at the moment, taking that apex nice and tight, and manages again a better exit on Murph. But Murph is not ready to give up that P4 just yet. He's trying to fight Sicily, but it looks like that move is done and dusted now, Midnight.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Murph's going to have to be careful not to lose 2 positions for this half-second penalty. It was unfortunate. He got a little bit forced out wide into turn 1. He put down the throttle just that a little bit too early, picks up that penalty. So here he goes. Here he's served. The penalty should come over to the right slightly. I think the stewards might have a word with him for that one. But he's not only going to lose the 2 positions, fortunately, because Ziggy is also picking up a half-second penalty. So he'll be serving that one on the next lap. So Murph will have to be careful not to incur the wrath of the stewards for not moving off the racing line, serving a penalty. But we move on. We go into the next lap, lap 11, the penultimate lap of the race. We've got out front, we've got Kirk still challenging for that lead. Hasn't gotten past Coach yet, as we said. He is hard to overtake, and Coach definitely proving that. But realistically, Coach can probably finish P2 as Kirk drops it coming out of turn 3. He's going to do a spin turn, and Druid will get past. That is unfortunate, Sarah.
That is very unfortunate, but obviously it goes to show how easy it is to lose that car over the curb in that turn 3. And yeah, obviously a big car like the Genesis as well, it's not the most stable coming out of the corner. So I think maybe potentially caught Kirk by surprise there, but obviously he's not dropped too many positions when you're in a fight for the lead. I know obviously that will sting a little bit, but obviously I'm sure he'll settle for a P3 provisionally, obviously of course because of that incident. But yeah, very unfortunate for Kirk. But having a quick little look behind, we have Ziggy potentially, well, he seems to have got a little bit closer to Damo here in this last lap. And although he has got a half-second penalty, so Murph will be eager to try and catch up. We're talking about that move by Murph on the previous lap. I think Damo must have. It was very hot cat-like reactions there to move out the way of Murph, because that could have been a potentially a race-ruining move by Murph not coming off the racing line. I think good reactions from Damo to move out the way and to get into that P5 position.
I would agree, and Damo being in VR as well, he would have seen nothing but brake lights in front of him, so he definitely would have an elevated heart rate after that one, for certain. But yes, coming into the final lap, Sarah, Kirk dropping that place on the previous lap. He's going to be setting off after Druid again, who has inherited P2, but I do feel that Druid will be keeping that no matter what happens, because Kirk surely has got something to answer for with those stewards. But Coach, he has looked pretty damn good in this race. It looks like he's going to come around and take that P1 well deservedly, starting quite far down the back of the grid in this one, and he was, I think, 9th or 10th by the first corner come at the start of this sprint race. But he's going to be very happy with himself for picking up this sprint win with Druid, picking up a well-deserved result as well, Sarah. But what can I say? End of the sprint race, it leaves you wanting more for this feature. But Coach is going to be happy, and then happy with himself, and looking forward to a very strong feature race too, don't you think?
Yeah, obviously coming off of a victory of a sprint race, going into that feature race, it does kind of give you a little bit more confidence behind you. And obviously just he has to make sure that strategy is on point to get another win. But I'm sure Coach is fully able to do that. I think Druid as well, obviously a mega result for him in that P2, and Kirk in P3 at the moment provisionally. But yeah, I've got to give a massive shout out to Druid as well. I think he really deserved that P2, because he made, I don't think he made a mistake.
I would agree on that. And shout out to Citley as well, who was involved in a lot of those battles and just made his way through to P4. So a very sort of stealthy but well-deserved race with a lot of points all on that one. And then we have to say well done to Sturdy and Simon, who are still going at it in the final corner. Simon swoops around the outside but might pick up a penalty. I think he's going to get away with it. Sturdy going slowly. Is he experiencing it? He's out of fuel, Sarah.
No fuel. Yeah, it just goes to show that guzzling American Dodge Viper ran out of fuel on the last lap.
And he's the only one to be anywhere near the end of the fuel. I mean, Dijon made a pit stop, technically speaking, but I don't expect he picked up any fuel, but he still has nearly a quarter of a tank. So that Viper definitely drinking that fuel, like you say, but I can only have commiserations for C-Gen on this one, being nerfed into... Although funny is not something you ever want to happen to you.
No, especially during a race. I can definitely agree with that. But obviously, I think a good sprint race all in all for everybody. I think, especially around the Red Bull Ring, it's all about kind of figuring out the track limits, making sure to not pick up as many track limit penalties as possible. And I'm sure the drivers that did pick up some penalties, they'll maybe reevaluate their racing lines a little bit in the feature race. But I don't know about you, but I thought we should probably run through the results and then get into the feature race, because if the feature race gives us any action like the sprint race did, it's going to be a good one.
Okay, well, Sarah, looking at the results following that race, the stewards have handed Kirk a 5-second penalty. Although he is lucky, he does retain P3 there in the final sprint race there, so he's a bit lucky. He was only a couple of seconds shy of having it disappear from him, so he's going to be very happy with that one. But that said, Coach, he does maintain the win, even after a couple of little warning points for a little streak that he had somewhere during the middle or early part of the race. But what can we say, Sarah? That was a great drive from Coach and Druid to pick up that P2, 1 and 2 respectively, don't you think?
I think so. I couldn't agree more. Obviously, Coach, he is the master of defence. So as soon as he got in front of Kirk, there was no letting Kirk back through. And obviously, it just goes to show he did that yet again. But like I said, I think Druid did a mega job because obviously he had to kind of get through the pack as well and hold on to that P2 position. I think a mega result from him. Yeah, like I say, Kirk very lucky to hold on to that P3. Only about 3 seconds away from getting that P3. Well, Sicily getting into that P3 position. So just goes to show how close the pack really were in this sprint race. I think everyone did a mega job. I think obviously Damo in P5 as well. Ziggy P6. I think everyone did a really good job. Obviously, just very unfortunate for Cypher. Obviously, on that second lap being taken out. Unfortunately, never really kind of got his race started. But I think all props to him for carrying on. And obviously, it's good spirit to have. Just keep carrying on, and obviously using the sprint race to collect some data going into the feature race. I think it's good for him. Obviously, to get those laps in the bank and use them in the feature race.
Completely agree. And with the feature race scheduled to have some wet weather, I think just finishing the race for Degen is a good citer for what is to come, and not to mention pick up that extra point for just finishing the race, even though he's not going to be particularly happy with the result out and about. But well, all I can say is I'm looking forward to what the red and blue lobbies can really give us for the rest of this event. So on to the next one, Sarah.
Yeah, let's do it.
And here we are for the Red Lobby Round 3 here for the F1 RC Championship. So, for the sprint race, we have T50 Gary in the GTR taking up pole position for this rolling start. He'll be followed by Iceman in the Genesis. Then we have our very own co-founder Sarah Hawkey in the Red Lobby in P3. Then we have Mercedes in the GTR, that's never going to get confusing, in P4. And then we have the other T50 gentleman, T50 Phil, in P5 in that 458. Sophie will take up her third row grid slot in P6 in that R8. Then Pedro in the other Huracan will be in P7. Then in P8, in his 458 homage livery, we have Nigel Mansnail.
In P9, we then have Giles, aka Giggles, in the Lamborghini Huracan. In P10, we have Charlie in the BMW M6. In P11, we have our very own other co-founder in Midnight ISO. Look at him go. In the McLaren. And in P12, we have Koulios, also in the McLaren 650S. Not too far behind Koulios, we then have Wise Fodderboy in the Porsche 911. In P14, we have our very own McManley in the Ferrari 458. And quite menacing in the GTR, we all know him for is Katie the Kai. And then rounding off the sprint race grid, we have the Dark Lord in the McLaren 650S.
And what a grid this is going to be, Sarah, for the Red Lobby sprint race here. There are so many names I could pull out and say, well, they're likely for a podium here or for a sprint win perhaps, but you got to be saying, if you're, say, T50 Gary there, you're going to be wanting to get away out of the blocks very, very quickly, because the likes of, say, Dark Lord, Katie the Kai and McManley back there are going to be coming through and chasing you down. So, for this race, Sarah, do you have any ideas? Who do you think is going to take a sneaky little podium or victory on this one?
I don't know. I think it's too hard to tell at this moment. Like you say, there's so many names that you could pull out the hat as to who to win this sprint race. I think, obviously, I think there's going to be some defensive driving from some of the people up front. But obviously, we definitely know who's going to be on the charge. You know, Katie the Kai, Dark Lord. You know, they're champions for a reason. So I'm excited to see how quickly they get through the grid, or if the drivers in front of them maybe take more defensive lines to slow them down a little bit. But like you say, it's going to be an interesting one. But those people at the front, there's going to be a lot of pressure.
I completely agree, and even then you've got some drivers who are a little bit out of place, like say Mercedes and Sophie. Even Pedro, who haven't had the season they've wanted up to this point, so they've got a real opportunity of sneaking a very good result here in the sprint race, so long as they can keep some of the sort of past champions behind them and get their elbows out, like you say. So it's going to be an interesting one, I feel. But with that in mind, let's hand over to the commentators and see what they make of it.
Right, so all of the cars are getting ready, going around the final corner here at Red Bull Ring. We've got T50 Gary in pole position, just about to go over the start, finish straight, and I'm joined by Jared, aka Citily, in the commentary box tonight, and it's his first commentary, so welcome aboard, Jared. And action already from the get-go. We've got Phil going for a bit of a move on Mercedes in that Ferrari at the moment. Bit of action at the front between Iceman and Gary. But anything caught your eye so far?
I've just seen Pedro move up a position on Sophie. He's already up one into P6, and right now, as we see the number 9 making a move on Mercedes, going into turn 3, that's Remus, makes the move stick. And as I see that, Gary's already gotten himself a track limits penalty. I think he went wide in turn 1.
Well, it's so easy to do around here. I'm sure he's not going to be the first of... he's going to be the first of many to get those track limit penalties tonight.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sarah. The 9's just been pitted into a spin. She's backwards. Someone else has gone into the gravel and spun around. That's Coolios. Phil, I think, was the one that initiated the contact. He's down on the inside waiting. That might be a steward's inquiry later today.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you there. It looked like Mac and Coolios had a little bit of a coming together as well. Maybe potentially because of that first little incident that we had. Had a little bit of a battle brew between KD the Kai, Dark Lord and Fodder here. KD the Kai taking that inside line into the final couple of corners. But thinks better of it. Doesn't want those half-second penalties just yet. But at the front of the grid, we've got Nigel going for a bit of a move on Giles. Charlie not too far behind, looking for a move as well, but Midnight coming out the back of Nigel, giving him a little bump, so a little bit of teamwork here already between some of the drivers.
And as all that is happening, Gary and Iceman have been battling for the lead since Gary served his penalty before going into Rin. It's interesting to see both of these cars up front, because both of these cars, based on my own experience, these cars are a little heavier, they're more understeery in terms of handling characteristics compared to the Lamborghini out in fourth, driven by Pedro, who's A, made up more spots, B, now has picked up a half-second penalty himself. Usually when you think of these kinds of
penalties, Midnight, sorry to interrupt you there, Midnight picking up a half-second penalty as well.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of those today. Red Bull Ring seems to be one of those tracks where you can do that real easy. We've seen it a lot in recent Grand Prix as well, guys going too wide and earning the ire of the stewards. Meanwhile, while Midnight will be serving that soon, as will Pedro. He's actually gone ahead of Gary, who's fallen down to fourth. He'll be back up to third here. I think he may have had a moment going into the gravel, which is how TWR Mercedes has gone ahead of him.
Yeah, and just looking on board with Gary and Sophie going very wide coming out of that final couple of corners, and both picking up a half-second penalty. I feel like no one play along with a drinking game here, because the amount of half-second penalties drivers are going to get, I think, obviously, it's going to be a busy night if anyone's playing a drinking game with that. But talking about obviously half-second penalties, it does lose you a bit more than that half-second. It loses I'd say 1 to 2 seconds, because obviously we saw how far Gary dropped down the order, and then Pedro himself losing 2 positions because of the penalty. So, Giles making a very late move there on Pedro there, trying to go out on the outside line. Pedro securing that apex, but Giles also having a half-second penalty. So Pedro currently being the meat in between, the sandwich between these drivers here that have got a half-second penalty. Well, out front we've got Mercedes and Iceman initiating a little bit of a battle. What have you spotted?
Pedro and Giles had a little bit of a side swipe coming into, turn 4 there. A little interesting. I think Giles was trying to cover the point there, but Pedro was already there. So I think there's probably a little donut mark on the door there on both Lambos. Thankfully, no damage to either one of them. But as you mentioned, Giles does have that penalty over his head. He'll have to serve that here. And it's interesting with the Gran Turismo penalty zones, because depending where they put them, you can either lose the right amount of time, half a second, or in this case here at Red Bull Ring, you're losing, as you said, about 2 seconds. It's odd placement of penalty zones, I think, in this game, as I just see Pedro just copped himself another one. When you have a penalty zone in a long enough straight, it's going to do a lot more damage than what is intended. And, it's something the drivers have to think about a lot, especially around here. Unfortunately, as also mentioned, easy to go off anywhere around here due to the amount of runoff.
Yeah, and I feel like even going over it by a centimetre, the game's just like, no, here's a half-second penalty just for you. So obviously drivers having to be really careful around here. And sometimes even being careful, you can still pick up one of those penalties. So I guess it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. If everyone gets it, then it's all fair. But Nigel going for a bit of a dive bomb on Giles here. Doesn't quite make that move work. Giles goes for the switch back. So balance has been restored amongst those two. But having a quick look at the front, Mercedes has picked up a half-second penalty. He just got past Iceman. Obviously, Iceman getting in that early lead, and he'll be getting back in the lead with this penalty from Mercedes here. But going back to your earlier statement about obviously, especially the Genesis obviously being quite a heavier car, Iceman choosing this car again this season, sticking with it. And I've got to say, I'm really impressed with Iceman, how he's driving that Genesis so far. Not the easiest car to drive, especially around here.
Yeah, he's definitely a driver that I've noticed that learns quick. In his first Fusudo race, he didn't quite have a spectacular debut, but over that time, over the last year, he's really honed his racecraft. He's gone better and better each race, and you can see that because he's consistently making the red lobbies now, and he's doing real well for himself right now. He's held on to the lead a lot longer than I would have in this situation.
Yeah, I think I would have crumbled if I was in the lead here, especially with obviously the caliber of drivers that we have, but also my skill level. But just having a quick little look back, I saw that McManley and Gary coming together yet again. Oh. I was on board with the two coming through turn 1, and they seem to have a little bit of a door bashing moment. And going into turn 3, I think that again coming together. So these drivers quite heavy in battling at the moment, as Gary brakes a lot later, tries to go around the outside of McManley here into turn 4/5, not quite making it work, and letting Charlie get alongside him for this next sector here. Gary trying to keep on the inside line, although he's got
almost.
Three wide on this bit. That takes some guts. Charlie going a little bit wide here. Katie the Kai and Fodder going for a very late move on Katie the Kai, potentially getting him by surprise. But what a move by Fodder there.
This is absolutely turning out to be a cracking battle here, because you're seeing all these cars getting so close to each other. As we see, Charlie's picked himself up a penalty, I think, coming out of turn 6, I believe that was. Just running a little too much, as we see Fodder having to concede position going wide. He does the right thing here. Well, Gran Turismo obviously didn't think so. Did the right thing, letting up before he could get off the track, but unfortunately, the stewards up in the tower decided to give him a half-second penalty anyway.
Yeah, and Pedro having a 1-second penalty here, so potentially, obviously, picking up the track limits in the first and the last corner. Giles going for the inside line here. the two Lamborghinis battling on. Well, we've got the Dark Lord, last season's champion, just behind these two. And just having a quick look up front as well, Iceman, I think, potentially may have gone a little bit wide or made a potential mistake, as Sophie and Mercedes has managed to get past him. But Dark Lord is on the move now. He wants to get onto that podium as quick as he can, as he goes down the inside of both Pedro and Giles here.
He's the defending champion for a reason. He knows how to get through these guys, and, well, he's gone through 2 Lambos. He wants to get through Pedro before they get to the penalty zone. There's a little bit of a door bang there. Pedro goes off a little bit, and he touches the grass, and he almost gets into the gravel. Good save by Pedro there, but he loses time on top of what's going to be compounded by this 1 second time limit penalty.
Yeah, I was wincing there. I don't know about you. I was thinking, oh, any minute now we're going to see that Lamborghini facing the wrong way. But what a save by Pedro there to keep it on the road. And obviously, yeah, unfortunately, he's going to have to burn that penalty there and then. But between Nigel and Giles, these two have got close together on track and potentially eyeing up for a little bit of a battle. And Dark Lord, I mean, he's already nearly caught up to Iceman here. So, like I say, eager to get onto that podium. Let's see what Iceman can do and try and defend. Sophie has managed to get past Mercedes here as well. Mercedes obviously picking up a half-second penalty last lap. So, I mean, it's anyone's race at the moment. I think anyone can get on the podium or that top spot. Seems to be swapping around quite a bit as we see Giles going for a late move into that inside line. Getting the move potentially done, although not quite. Nigel not ready to give that position up just yet. The two are going side by side into this next corner here. Let's see who will come out on top. Or who's braver on the brakes. I have a feeling that both of them are going to be quite late on the brakes here. Quite evenly matched. A little bit of door bashing moment between Nigel and Giles. Very close to the sand there. But the two managing to go side by side around here. That's not something you see very often.
No, and they're still side by side. They have not gone away from each other's doors. Now, finally, Giles does clear Nigel. And as that's happening, Gary, I believe, has come into the pit lane, possibly to retire from the sprint. He's been in there for a little bit now. He's not come back out. The crew's just kind of standing around that car, waiting to, get the word on what they should do. They're just standing around right now. He's going to go a lap down here.
Yeah, potentially maybe calling it a day for the sprint race. Obviously a shame to see, but sometimes... Oh, I thought there was a potential incident about to occur between these three here, between Pedro, Kai and Manley. The three got very close to each other in that braking zone. But yeah, unfortunately, obviously, if Gary has retired, but I'm sure he'll be back for the future race and to give it one more shot. But these three here, the battle for 7th is heating up. Although we see Midnight going a little bit wide, losing their position to Charlie there, and Fodder going on that inside line past Midnight now. I think it's a very close battle between everyone. Everyone seems to be really close to each other, which is obviously very good to see in the sprint race.
Absolutely. These sprint races aren't long, but it's the perfect opportunity to make yourself known. Make sure everyone knows what you're capable of. And it's also, some guys don't practice a lot, but this is also your first real test at a racing situation here. So you can simulate what may happen in the future in this race, figure out what you need to do with the tires. As you see, some of the guys on softs, they're struggling right now. Iceman, he's down halfway on his left front right now. Softs might not be the way to go, assuming the feature is dry. As we see, him and Dark Lord both serve a half-second penalty. A lot of guys, went with the medium tires. Mercedes, he's in second right now, waiting to see Sophie's tires go. Unlike Iceman, the Audi R8, which is a very odd handling platform, I'd say, the rear tires on that car are not looking great. They're looking very second-hand, as you would say. Down to about maybe a third left. While Mercedes does have a half-second penalty over his head after going through turn 10. Those tires I'm not sure if those tires are gonna make another 4 laps on the 714. That Audi is burning through tires quick, and Sophie's going to have to think of something to keep Mercedes at bay here.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right there, and have a little bit of a change of position for the podium. Dark Lord getting on the inside of Iceman there, getting that position done, but although Iceman's not ready to give up that podium just yet, going on the outside, potentially setting up himself for a switcheroo, although Dark Lord knew what Iceman was up to there, capped off that apex and was defending hard there. But Nigel has managed to get past Giles here, and we've still got that battle for 7th. Pedro obviously losing a few positions, but McManley and Katie the Kai still going for it. Katie the Kai trying to swing it around the outside here. Potentially, if he can get the move done, or Mac nearly forces him into the gravel. I was going to say, if he got the move done there, Giles made a bit of a mistake, so he could have got 2 positions in one there. But everyone, again, still very close. Charlie has got 1 second penalty, so he's going to lose quite a few positions here, which lets Midnight back through. Potentially Phil as well, though Phil just a little bit too far away to capitalise on Charlie's penalty there. But oh my god, the battle from P5 all the way down to about P11 are not separated by much here.
No, this 3-car battle that started with Kai, Mac, and Pedro has turned into an 8-car pack, leading up to Nigel in 5th place, as we see Kai trying to make the move on the inside, getting a little squirrely on the inside of Mac, holds onto it, loses a spot to Pedro. He's got Fada right in tow with him. The number 23 Porsche looking to the outside here, going into Remus. They're side by side for 9th. There's so much going on in this pack, you can hardly see what's happening as Kai and Pedro get together.
There's so much to keep our eyes on. Everyone's drifting around that corner. Katie the Kai, Pedro going side by side. Mac and Giles just out in front as well, having a little bit of a door bashing moment. You can't really guess who's going to be out on top of this little battle here. It's just too much going on.
No, the only way you're going to know who's going to come out on top is how they cross when that checkered flag falls. As we see more of Kai, Pedro, and Fada having a battle, Midnight decides to get into it. The 23 is loose. How did he hold on to that one?
I have no idea. Did a really good job there. That Porsche swinging side to side. Personally, I don't think I would have catched that. So well done, Fada, for catching that one. But McManley on the inside of Katie the Kai here. He manages to just keep hold of it and goes into that 7th place again, although Katie the Kai, I'm sure, will be eager to try and get past McManley here as soon as he can. But I've got to say, I mean, everyone, obviously the driving standards, they're doing amazing so far. Not too many incidents, quite a few to start with, but I thought Mac could potentially go for a move here, but Giles
thought about it, there might have been a bump there. There might have been a bump there between Giles and Mac. Giles goes wide in turn 1. As I see in the background, I think... No, that's Phil. Phil's gone backwards out of Lauda. He's trying to reverse back on the track. A bad sprint's gone to worse for the 44 car.
Yeah, like you say, obviously this is the driver's time to kind of get in their last minute practice, see how the car handles during a race situation. But I'm sure he'll be back for the feature race and maybe a little bit more prepared. McManley has managed to get that 6th place, but Katie the Kai wants that 6th place, goes to the inside line here. Mac knowing that Katie, oh my god, the 2 behind getting very close to these 2. The 2 Lamborghinis still fighting side by side here, as well as McManley and Katie the Kai that are side by side. I have a feeling that all the drivers like to be going side by side round here. We've said that quite a few times already, and it's only the sprint race.
Something I've noticed with Giles is the rear tires, much like the Audi R8 on Sophie's, they're really badly worn compared to the mediums on Pedro. Giles is on the soft tires, so they're burning up, and I think that may have contributed to him running into Pedro there in the 2nd sector, as we have hit the final lap. God, there's just so much going on. Giles, despite the tire wear, is not giving in here.
Yeah, talking about tyre wear, I'm surprised about how many people actually went for the softs. We've got about half the grid on softs, half the grid on medium. So, you know, some people going for the aggressive strategy on the softs. And I've got to say, impressed that they've managed to hold on for that long. Because normally those soft tyres, they get chewed through and kind of spat out on the other side pretty quickly. But everyone seems to be holding on to their tyres pretty well around here.
Yeah, as Croft and Brundle once talked about tires, around this specific track, the tires start turning into shredded mozzarella after a while. Meanwhile, up front, Mercedes has taken Sophie. He has taken the lead. Dark Lord's up in 3rd on the medium tire. The softs on Sophie's Audi are gone.
Oh, she's got absolutely a few more corners to hold the Audi R8. Let's hope that she can do it.
And you know what? She's still right there on the back of the GTR. Going through 7 and 8 for the final time in the sprint. It still could be anyone's race here.
Yeah, Mercedes eager to not make a mistake and pick up a half-second penalty around here. That would be soul crushing. Obviously, picking up a half-second penalty when you've got a driver that close to behind you. Let's hope that this top three can. Dark Lord might take Sophie here before the line. The two are side by side, and I think.
Sophie!
I think Sophie just managed to get that P2. That was so close.
Nigel comes across the line 4th ahead of Iceman. Max McManley 6th. Pedro 7th. Kai 8th. Giles, Midnight, Fada, Charlie, Coolio, Sarah Hockey. And, God, that was so close between all of them. That was a ginormous pack. And Phil's going to come across the line 15th. Last of the running cars. T50 Gary, his teammate, will officially be credited with 16th, about 6 laps down.
Yeah, unfortunate for Gary, but let's hope that he will be back for the feature race that has a little bit better of a time. But I've got to say that I think that's the closest I've seen the pack racing for this amount of laps. 12 laps, obviously, so quite a short distance. But talking about sprint races, normally halfway through we see the pack kind of really spread out, but no way did that happen around here. I think the Red Bull just obviously provides us with just amazing racing action, because especially that middle pack, it was so hard to call who was going to finish where, and it made our job just that 10 times more harder to keep an eye on everyone. I've got to say, I think this is the closest I've seen everyone race. That photo finish between Sophie and Dark Lord, that was just chef's kiss.
Oh, that was absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely brilliant racing by those guys. The timing is a little weird with GT in that the nose doesn't determine where you are position-wise when you cross that line. It's where your driver crosses the line. So I wonder if the shorter cab of the Audi R8 might have played a role in getting her second place there. Because I think I saw the nose of the number 6 McLaren staying ahead of the Audi. But I think because of the shorter wheelbase and the shorter front end compared to the McLaren, Sophie was able to take second. As we see, Gary has finally come out of the pit lane and he's slicing his way through the rest of the field. While everyone's on cooldown, that might be its own Stewart's inquiry. Based on that, everyone's on a cooldown. He's still running at racing speed.
He's flying. He wants to finish the race in his own special way. He's just about to start he's just about to finish the race. We're across the start-finish straight line now. And officially, I guess one of the last runners, getting some last-minute practicing before the feature race. But talking about post-race, we do have some decisions by the stewards, and unfortunately Dark Lord did receive a 2-second penalty, but he keeps on hold of that P3 position. But KD the Kai also picks up a 2-second penalty, which I believe drops him to P10, so loses a few positions for some racing incidents. Obviously not too many positions lost there, all things considered, because obviously I think the closer the battle is, obviously kind of the more positions could be lost. So I think obviously KD the Kai will take some sort of thingy that he only lost a few positions. But let's hope the feature race no one picks up any penalties. But I don't know about you, but I'm more excited to watch the feature race now, because that sprint race provided us with some good racing and a lot of excitement.
The same goes for me here. With how close these guys are, imagine these guys doing this for about triple or quadruple the amount of laps they just did here. On top of that, I'm getting a little bit of a forecast in my ear. We might be getting soggy.
Oh, I pick up what you're putting down there. Let's go see how the drivers get on. I was going to say it's starting to look a bit cloudy here, so maybe some more strategy for the drivers to think of. Obviously, we saw where the drivers qualified earlier. Feature race could throw some more challenges their way. So let's go get into it and see how.
Yep, let's do it.
And here we are for round 3's feature race in the blue lobby. So, with a commanding pole position, we have our very own Kirk in that purple Genesis on the soft tyres. Worthy of note, it's worth saying all drivers, with the exception of Simon and Sturdy, are on the soft tyres. So, Kirk on those softs, taking P1. Big Crazy Bertie taking P2, showing that he's got some class round here at Red Bull Ring, taking that second position. Then in P3, the winner of the sprint race, we have Coach. In P4, we have Lyle in that 458, looking for a good result here today. In P5, we have Sidley in that Lexus, definitely outperforming the machine a little bit today and really showing his mettle around here. Then we have Ziggy in that 4C, getting that car into positions it probably shouldn't be, so he's going to be happy he's there and hoping for a podium today. Then in P7, Damo also showing his class today. He has done very well to get that 911 up into the top 8 here today. Then in P8 we have Joe Nesbitt in that 4GT, maybe struggling a little bit with that car today, but let's see what the feature race can bring.
In P9 we have Chaos Druid in the Lexus, and not too far off P8, but in P10 we then have Murph in that Supra doing a good showing. In P11 we have Welsh Smurf in the Ford GT, showing what the power, the American power that Ford GT has. In P12 we then have Dejan Cypher in the Lamborghini. In P13 we then have Sturdy Motorsport, and in P14 we then have our very own Super Simon in that BMW. And we have a little bit of a late joiner. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us in qualifying earlier, but we have Sophia in the Mercedes AMG rounding off the feature race grid midnight.
We do indeed, and that's quite a hell of a blue lobby grid today, isn't it? A few drivers are going to be either scything their way through the field or aiming for a podium straight off the bat from a top qualifying position. But I've got to say, Kirk looks like he hasn't got half the race won already, but taking P1 in that Genesis, he's going to be supremely happy with himself. But he's going to have to really watch out. Coach has shown he's got speed today, and Big Crazy Bertie, you cannot discount him round here. And then they're all going to be worried that they've got people like Sophia behind them coming through the field, especially with weather forecast today here at Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, I think obviously the weather could throw a massive kind of hurdle for the drivers to jump over. But I'm glad you mentioned Sophia there. Obviously you can't write her off just yet. Although she's starting at the back of the grid, we all know kind of her aggressive driving nature could mean that she gets to the top of the pack pretty much straight away. But I'm excited to see what happens. And obviously I think all drivers are pretty much within the running here, as long as obviously they don't let the likes of Kirk and Bertie and Coach kind of make a run for it right at the start.
Yeah, I think you're completely right there. And there's going to be drivers out there starting on different tyres as well, so strategy is going to be key around here. But more than anything, it's going to be when or if that weather comes, like you said. So, interesting one. But with that in mind, let's hand over to the commentators and get straight to the action. And here we are for the feature race for the Blue Lobby, Season 5, Round 3 rather. And here we go. Kirk is going to lead us away in these treacherous conditions with Bertie in P2, Coach in P3. And we are away for the Red Bull Race Blue Lobby. And here we go into Turn 1. I don't think we're going to see too many moves into Turn 1. A lot of the drivers are going to be a little bit cautious around this first couple of corners. That said, we do see Druid making a move on Murph, but they all make it through nice and cleanly. Kurt leading away, Lyle up to P3 with Coach in P4, our sprint winner, and into that treacherous T3 as we come up. Joe in 7th, but Kirk, he's defending from Bertie. That's an interesting one in that first opening lap. All the drivers so cautious into T3, but you got to be a mixture of wet and intermediate tyres at the moment. They're going to have to do what they can to make sure they get around this first lap smoothly, Sarah. Have you spotted anything yet?
No, and just everything that you've spotted so far. I think obviously some drivers maybe with the intermediate tyres maybe thinking they've made the wrong choice at the moment because these weather conditions. Damo unfortunately has I'm not sure if he's got involved in an incident or he spun himself out because of the weather, but he unfortunately is in the gravel at the moment and drops down to P15. But apart from that, I was going to say, obviously, the intermediate tyres around here, in these sort of conditions, the drivers are going to be have to be very brave indeed, as we saw a little bit of a slide there from Sophia and City coming around that corner. So that corner will be one to watch for sure. But yeah, these weather conditions are a bit horrible, aren't they?
They are, and like you said, anyone running the intermediate tyre is going to be having an interesting one at the moment. All those wet tyre runners, we see Kirk getting off into the distance. He looks like he has tamed that Genesis for these conditions. But on board the coach, you can't see anything. Anyone in VR or on the nose cam at the moment is going to be seeing nothing but spray from the cars in front. But you can see Lyle look like he's trying to make a move on Bertie coming out of T1 with coach really hot on his heels. That very bright luminescent livery looking red hot even in these conditions. But Ziggy, Smurf and Druid all going side by side up the first straight into T3. But we're going to see them all arriving all at once. Little bit of contact from Ziggy onto Smurf. A little bit rude there, but gets the move done. But I think the stewards might have a word to say about being a bit careful in these conditions. But you can see Damo there with a bit of damage. That says to me he either hit a barrier or someone hit him into that spin earlier last lap.
Yeah, no, I think we just caught the back end of that incident there, as we saw. I think it was Cypher and Murph coming together a little bit there, as I say, rubbing his racing. But in these sort of conditions, you don't really want to rub too hard because, yeah, it's it's easy to send the cars off track, and especially you don't want to touch those curbs at all because they're a little bit slippy at the moment. As we see Sophia and Smurf go side by side through this section here, both getting very sideways coming out of the corner. But yeah, I think obviously we're only 2 laps in, but this race is interesting already. We've obviously got a little bit of an early lead, obviously for Kirk there. He's created a little bit of a gap between himself and Bertie. But even Bertie in that P2, he's Lyle not too far behind, but Bertie managing to hold off that Ferrari for now.
Yep, clearly doing so. And actually just hearing, might be all drivers on wet tyres, so everyone going conservative but appropriately so in these conditions, because we don't want to be out on inters here in these full wet conditions. But we do see no dulling of the action, red hot action with Joe fighting Sicily and Ziggy coming down that straight right behind Coach. Coach not seeing the speed that we saw from him in that sprint as of yet, but give it time. Still early in this race, still a long way to go. And some contact in turn 3 from Sophia onto Sicily, pitching Sicily round, Sarah.
Yeah, that did look like a bit of a T-bone from Sophia there, but Sophia is waiting by the side of the road for Sicily to get back up and running, although Simon is making his way through as well. Yeah, very unfortunate those two come together, as those two look like they were about to be contenders in that little bit of the group that we had, but obviously they'll have to fight their way back up a little bit. But yeah, obviously good for Sophia for waiting there, but obviously I think unfortunately for Sicily, he'll have to catch up that group again to make any sort of moves. But talking about that group, like you say, Coach is leading that little group at the moment from the 4GT of Joe Nesbitt. But I don't think that Supra handles too well in the wet, mate.
No, Coach definitely looks like he's struggling. Joe, it looks like he is on the attack into the final couple of corners. But Coach, being as hard as he is to overtake, always manages to brake late and just makes that move not impossible, but definitely just that hard enough to stay in P4.
Oh! As we see Simon going very wide there, off track a little bit, but lets Sophia and Sicily through. But yeah, like you say, obviously, I'm just having a quick look at the battle as well from Cypher and Chaos. That seems to be heating up a little bit. But it just goes to show, even these sort of weather conditions, the drivers aren't afraid to go for some daring moves.
Yeah, and I've just seen Damo come into the pits. Could he be the first person thinking into tyres? But personally, I wouldn't be thinking them in those conditions. out front, Kirk is still leading away. Bertie in P2, still holding his own there in P2, doing very well. Damo into the pits for the pit stops, at least to repair that damage. Full tank of fuel going in. No change of tyres there. Interesting. Lyle P3, Coach still sitting in P4. Ziggy on the move up to P5, taking that position off Joe, but Joe going to fight back. A little bit of contact. Oh, lads, 3 into 1 doesn't go.
Oh, 3 into 1 in the... Oh, it looked like Ziggy came into contact with Coach there and sends Coach into the gravel. Not what Coach would have wanted there, and that does let Cypher and Chaos and Smurf through as well. So unfortunately, that little mistake from Ziggy has cost Coach quite a few positions.
Yeah, unfortunate. These conditions, the spray and 3 into 1, there's always going to be a slight issue when it comes to cars on track meeting each other and one ending off in the gravel. Unfortunate there for the two drivers. Coach, though, we have faith in him. He will make his way, hopefully, back through to the front. But at the moment, he's tucked up behind DGen Cypher, who unfortunately had a bit of a rubbish sprint thanks to an incident. But it looks like he is much more at home in these conditions and doing rather well there in 7th place at the moment. But along that pit straight, bunch of cars all together. Let's hope they all make it through T1. But up front at the moment, Kurt looks like he has making a break for it. Bertie is now coming under pressure from Lyle, but that middle pack at the moment, Sarah, looks like it's where the action is at the moment.
It does indeed. Although I was having a look, obviously, Kirk in the lead. He's being kept honest by Bertie and Lyle. They're only about a corner behind, so obviously I think Kirk will be aware of that. But it looks like Sophia trying to go for the move on the inside of Coach and Ziggy here, so gets a bit of a 2-for-1 in that corner there, but does pick up a half-second penalty, so that might see her drop her behind those two again. And Cicely making a move on Simon and Murph there. Lots of people going side by side into that corner there. Obviously, in the dry, that's quite difficult, let alone in the wet. These drivers are a bit more braver than me because, to go for even 3 wide into the corner we saw last lap, 2 wide is bad enough in these sort of conditions.
Quite right. We just see Ziggy having a little bit more contact up at turn 3 earlier on, and then obviously falling behind Sophia, who got that bit of a 2-for-1 move there. And this pack are just swapping positions all of the time. It's hard to keep track of. But Sophia serving that half-second penalty. Druid will get through with Welsh Murph just following in behind, following in the wheel tracks of that AMG. And Sophia, as we know, is very good in these conditions. Is prone to making some very interesting strategic choices, and maybe the first one to break for any sort of gap in the weather if soft tyres or slick tyres become a thing. So keep an eye on Sophia. Something will happen with her throughout this race. And she dives up to turn 1, puts Druid on the outside, and Druid cutting back in. Look, he's going to have the inside for turn 3, Sarah.
What a move by Druid there. The old switcheroo, obviously let Sophia take the line, but then obviously fought hard to keep that P5 position. I think what a move from Druid there, as he keeps, like you say, to the inside of this turn 3 here. Sophia breaking a little bit later, but Druid capping off that apex side by side, although Sophia was able to put on the accelerator a little bit quicker in that Mercedes and does obviously hold that position from Druid. But it's good to see those two fighting side by side, and obviously it's not over just yet, but just behind we have the Welsh Smurf as well, looking to try and get past Druid. I've got to say, Smurf having a quiet start to the race, but he's making his way up there slowly but surely. Yeah,
starting to be respected. Often having a quiet race, these kind of races where people are tripping over themselves or each other and the conditions, having a quiet race will pay him back dividends much later on. So very good for Smurf to just have a little bit of a quiet one, although I don't think he sees it that way because I think he wants P6. But you can just definitely see that Sophia has been released. She's gone in P5 already. She does love these conditions, as we said. But at the moment, Welsh Smurf following Druid through in his wheel tracks. And Druid, another one who's very difficult to overtake. But again, these conditions can throw up a surprise at any corner for you. As you can see, Ziggy having one of those surprises right there. Ending up on the inside after, I think, lighted up his tyres.
It did look like a bit of an interesting slide by Ziggy there, but he held it, and it looks like Cypher's gone onto the inside line here, getting that move done and dusted on Murph on lap number 7. Releases him a little bit there, but yeah, I think obviously we just see just ahead we have Citily looking for a potential move on Coach as well. Those two have got closer and closer each lap. But I was just having obviously I think about Sophia. Obviously, unfortunately, couldn't join us in quali or the sprint. So obviously starting from the back of the grid, she's made her way up to P5 within 7 laps. That's obviously just goes to show how fast she really is. Also, if she turned up for quali, she could be in the position that Kirk's in at the moment. She could have obviously been quite far down the road. So obviously a bit of a challenge for Sophia, but P5 within 7 laps. That's a good drive so far, in my opinion.
I would completely agree with you. And someone like Sophia is someone you always have to watch. Wet or dry, red or blue lobby. It does not matter where she is going to be a threat for any and all positions. So, with that in mind, we'll keep an eye on her as the race goes on. Coach at the moment looks like he has settled down, but the driver behind him, Citily, looks like he wants to push Coach down another position as Murph does get a little bit loose coming out of a corner and loses a little bit of traction, ends up going a little bit lawnmower mode. But at the moment we can see Druid, he is challenging Smurf for that position, coming down the pit straight, had a little bit of contact I feel, and giving Smurf a little bit of a push start. But Citily on the back of Coach, he wants that P8. As we said, Coach, he is struggling a little bit in these conditions, but never count him out. He is always good on the brakes at very least. Always one of the hardest guys on this field to overtake.
Yeah, although Citily in a bit of a sandwich at the moment between Coach and Ziggy, he'll obviously be aware that any moves he has to kind of cap off Ziggy, but also try and maybe pose a challenge on Coach as well. So Citily going to the inside line, he might have been able to get out of that sandwich. And Ziggy, oh no! Ziggy, well, that was a good catch from Ziggy. I thought he was gone there, but unfortunately a little bit of damage, it looks like, to the front right suspension. But lucky it wasn't any more than that, because he was facing the complete wrong way for a second there.
Yeah, yes, Degen to thank for that when he actually straightened him up coming out the corner. But we are seeing from these conditions that Alpha doesn't particularly like these conditions. It looks like he's struggling for a rear traction. Coming out of the T3, he was more sideways than could ever possibly been. As we just watch Joe Nisbet go sideways and followed by Sophia. All drivers now are really starting to struggle. Sophia has, in the previous lap, set the fastest lap of the race, being released into P5. But I can only feel at the moment these are probably the worst conditions that we have seen for a long time in Nighthawk racing in terms of the wet weather. So all the drivers are doing very well to be all pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's not easy driving these sort of weather conditions and keeping the car pointing in the right direction. So for the majority, I think obviously the drivers are doing a pretty good job. And obviously we've seen quite a few power slides in the rain throughout this race so far, and pretty cool to see. But I know from a driver's perspective they can be pretty scary. So the driver's doing a good job, and it looks like Sophia is made the move on Jonas. But Joe having a little bit of a power slide and nearly come into that barrier in turn 3, but manages to hold it. And it looks like somewhere we've obviously Druid has managed to get into that P7, and it looks like City's just managed to get past Druid there. Obviously fighting the two Lexuses fighting side by side, but City coming out on top at the moment. But yeah, I think obviously Druid having a little bit of a struggle in that last lap, as well as Coach as well. But like you said earlier, these sort of weather conditions, one lap you could have all the grip in the world. The next lap, the track surface can be completely different. So it's all about that adjustability. As we see Druid having a little bit of a mistake there, and that drops him back to the bottom of this little group that we have.
I just have one question. When we have the two Lexus cars together, is it Lexuses, Lexi, or...
Oh,
no, that's a problem for another day. But we do have, yes, the two Lexus drivers. I'm just going to take the middle road on that one. Look like they're having a bit of a barnstorming race. But you do see Druid, he has dropped back to P11. So that's a big fall from, not from grace, that's a bit unfair, but that's a big fall of positions that you won't be happy with. But Lyle has got in front of Bertie at some point into P2, but they've got Sophia bearing down on them. And you can bet that'll be one thing that Kirk will be watching as well. He would have been seeing Sophia climb up the positions lap by lap, and those two know each other very well. But then again, so do Sophia and Bertie. Raced together for many years. That's one thing we always like to see. All of our drivers, new or old, get to know each other and experience all the kind of different conditions all together and know how each other race. And it's one thing that I think is going well.
Just sort of massive dive bomb from Sophia there, but she manages to hold it just about. All the two coming together, Bertie and Sophia coming together a little bit there. That looked very close. The dive bomb from Sophia I thought was done and dusted, but Bertie was like, no, I still want that P3 position for now. And the two having a little bit of contact, but Sophia does manage to get in front of Bertie here. But like I said a little while ago, obviously the two having raced previously, they know kind of what to expect from each other, and it looks like a little bit of scraping between the two, but apart from that, all clean.
Well, the one thing I'll say for Bertie, that would be squeaky bum time. So he would have known that was coming from Sophia. He would have absolutely sensed it. But there we go. That is Sophia up to P3 and wild. It's out of the final corner. And you have to think, Lyle is he's going to be looking more in his rearview mirror than he is forwards at this point. You just know, Sophia behind you, you've got to be careful. Because that is going to be a move that is going to be on in the next couple of corners. But a little further back, we see Ziggy running a little bit wide, fighting Druid. We've got pairs of cars all the way around here, but what's going on up front? Sophia has got Lyle coming out of turn 1. That must have been a spectacular undertake there from Sophia.
Yeah, obviously, or potentially maybe a mistake from Lyle, which dropped him a little bit further back. But nevertheless, Sophia into P2. I'm sure she'll be eager to try and catch down Kirk as well, as you see a bit of a move from a Cypher on Coach here. Cypher on that inside line going into turn 3. Breaks a little bit later than Coach. Coach tries to turn in, but there's a Lamborghini there, which has prevented him. And Coach looking a little bit sideways, and Cypher managing to get on that accelerator, creating a little bit of a gap between himself and the Supra of Coach. But we have Druid, unfortunately, having a little bit of a half spin coming out of turn 3. In these sort of weather conditions, that turn 3 it is a little bit tricky for drivers.
Yeah, and these conditions have just got, I think, worse than what we expected. I just saw Cypher just power sliding out one of the corners. But yeah, this is very, very challenging stuff. Full wet tyres only out there. I don't know really where to look at the moment. We're just over a quarter of the way through the race era. The top 5, well, 4 of the top 5 are all in the corner, and at the moment, Kirk is a little bit, he's made a break for it. He's not setting faster laps, but he doesn't need to. But Sophia is going to be hunting him down. It's going to come down to either raw speed for Sophia or just a little bit of strategy when we perhaps see a break in the weather. But these 3 or 4, from Sophia down to Bertie, are doing, and Joe, are doing rather well, I feel.
Yeah, and like I say, it'll be reacting to the conditions of the track as well, as to who is going to come out on top between Kirk and Sophia. So Kirk might have the slight upper hand at the moment, having a clear track in front and behind him for now. But like we say, we know what Sophia's capable of, so keep an eye out for her. And obviously, I think Kirk will be keeping an eye out for her in his rearview mirror as well. But it looks like we have a little bit of a challenge mounting from Murph on Druid here. Murph, obviously in the Supra, is a little bit behind Druid at the moment, although he does look like he's about to pull side by side going into turn 3, which again, obviously turn 3, not the easiest of corners to navigate in these sort of conditions. Murph going for that slightly tighter line into the apex, Druid going for a wider line, but the two look like they have managed to get that move done and dusted. Druid still in 11th and Murph still in 12th at the moment. And we see Super Simon Damo, obviously that one of our early pitters, is still on the wet and tyres and a little bit more fuel compared to some of the drivers around him. But it's good to see obviously all the drivers still circulating at the moment, despite these horrible conditions that we have.
Yeah, quite right. And it's always good just to put the laps in these conditions. It will help your fine motor skills when it comes around to seeing them again, or particularly even when it gets dry. Sort of, that's one thing Jenson Button always accredited to his dad. He never bought him wet tyres. He would always go around on dry tyres, and it really helped him fine-tune his skill set. I'm not that I'm advocating drivers going around on slick tyres, of course, but you get the point. But we do have a battle for P11 between Murph and Druid at the moment. These two still going at it. And all I can say at the moment is it's going to start calming down a bit now. It's going to get to that point where the drivers are going to be thinking long game. And I have to say that 4GT with those neon lights at the back of the car in these conditions looks gorgeous. I think we have to take in when we're at Red Bull Ring like this. This is an amazing venue for this kind of racing, wet or dry. And I'm betting the drivers love the track, maybe hate the conditions, but I think there's something special about racing around here in the wet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As we see Murph trying to go up for an overtake on Druid here, going for the outside line this time, and looks like Murph has managed to get past Druid. But yeah, I think obviously, like you say, it's a spectacular track. It always provides us with such great action, and especially despite all the weather conditions. Oh, it looks like, unfortunately, we have had a driver go on the gravel, and that is Cypher. Cypher going into the grass and the gravel, losing a bit of time to the driver in front of him, and that will let Coach and Ziggy catch up a little bit. But yeah, obviously, as you can see, it's getting a little bit foggy, a little bit dark at the track as well. So obviously another thing for drivers to contend with. But going back to your earlier statement, obviously, about Jenson Button as well, I think these sort of conditions, it really kind of, as a driver, you get to know that your car a little bit better as well, because you're having to basically fight the car the whole way around every corner. It could, do something unpredictable, and you've got to obviously learn how to catch the car, keep it facing forward. So it's like you say, it's good for skills of the drivers, obviously, and they get to know their car a little bit more as well, about how it handles, and obviously how to kind of counter steer when the car is power sliding through some of these corners. So it's good to see the drivers, adding to their skill sets, and I think they're doing a spectacular job so far.
I completely agree. And having a look round as well, it's nice to see a lot of the drivers are posting very consistent laps, despite either battling, despite the conditions, and despite everything around them. So it is good to see as a skill set enhancement, this kind of race really can pay you back long term. But one thing I'm personally very surprised at the moment is seeing Kirk, who was struggling in the sprint to keep the back end of that Genesis X under control. He has really sort of tamed it, but then again, you change your mindset with this kind of race. When you come into it, you know it's going to be, well, if you slide, it could be death on some of these curves. So yeah, he's calmed it down, maybe turned down the engine, turned down that throttle response a little bit. But he's quite happy up front at the moment, it would seem. And you can just see some other battles going on, Sarah.
I was just about to say, we just in that previous lap, we did see Smurf having a little bit of a mistake going into the gravel, and that did let Sicily go through into that P6 position. So Sicily climbing through the pack at the moment. But yeah, like you said, actually, obviously, that completely caught my attention about Nisbet. He's getting on the back of Bertie here, and looking potentially to catch up and get another position here. But Lyle, he's done a mega job. He's kept in that P3 for quite a long time now.
Yeah, we know Lyle from back during the pandemic of racing against him, how exactly fast he can really be, and it's great to see him unlocking his potential again and hitting that P3. And he's kind of there by himself, as Welsh Smurf does take a unique line and a different postcode out of turn 3 there, but he's going to be lucky not to pick up any time penalty. Hopefully he won't. Yeah, it's good to see Lyle having a very, very strong race, and there's this kind of race that really can bring to the forefront your raw skill. So it's good to see him there in P3.
Yeah, and it's good to see battles even in these sort of conditions, because obviously, like we said, it's in these sort of conditions, it is the driver fighting the cars, but also having to try and overtake each other. It's proving obviously a little bit difficult. And it looks like Ziggy has got onto the back of Cypher here. Obviously, we know how hard that Alpha is to drive in these sort of conditions. So at the moment, Ziggy just holding back a little bit and just tucking up just behind Cypher at the moment. Oh!
The answer to the question, is it ready for intermediate tyres? Damo says no.
Yeah, I mean, the Porsche definitely said no in that instant. No grip whatsoever coming out of that little S section that we've got there. Unfortunately does pick up a bit of damage, a little bit of maybe barrier repairs needed at that corner as well. But Damo is gone past the pits, so interesting call. Obviously not coming in to change those tyres and repair that damage, seeing if you can fight another lap.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. That's just the tyres not ready for the conditions. A little bit too much throttle coming out of the right-hander there, and yeah, the 911 going around. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. Damo being a lap down, he had nothing to lose by trying it, so I respect the opportunity taken there. It sadly doesn't always pay off for you, as we will no doubt see throughout the season of judgment calls, and particularly when it comes to weather, some not paying off, but we'll see. That said, Sarah, up at the front, Kirk has come into the pit. Sophia will take the lead. Interesting choice from Kirk.
I would say maybe potentially a very early pit stop.
Damage perhaps?
Maybe. Or maybe just wants a fresh set of rubber for a bit more grip. But obviously he's still got about a quarter of a tank left. So interesting that he decided to pit now as opposed to leave it a little bit longer. But maybe he's seen a gap in the weather. Maybe he wants to try those intermediate tyres out. We shall see very shortly. But interesting strategic call from Kirk there.
Yeah, and that just seems too early. We see Joe Nisbet coming in as well. Kirk going
he's
to
gone on
Inters.
to the intermediates and not a full tank. About half a tank he took on there.
The strategic side of my brain thinks that is a very odd, if unique call. We can only see if it's going to work out for him. Because, I don't know about you, Sarah, I'd be thinking wait until the weather clears up a bit, then make a definitive choice. Kirk had the benefit of track time and a gap to Sophia, unless he's worried that there might be a severe undercut.
Quite a lot of the drivers have decided to pit this lap. Obviously, we don't have access to the weather radar where we are, but the drivers do, and maybe the drivers have seen a gap in the weather incoming, or potentially something's happening, because quite a lot of the drivers following Kirk's lead by coming into the pits.
It's about half the field, Sarah.
Yeah. Maybe potentially shifting the weather. It does look like the downpours have stopped a little bit, but we all know how long it takes for the track to dry out. So interesting that nearly half the grid have decided to come in. Obviously, we still have Sophia, Lyle and Bertie and a few others on the wet tyres at the moment. So obviously we'll see Kirk potentially being the leading intermediate tyre. We shall see how he gets on. He runs a little bit wide onto the curb there. But obviously only a lap or so ago we saw Damo on the intermediates having that spin. So interesting.
Yeah, and Sittley comes in as well. Yeah, this is to the point where, more than half the field have come in and all going to the intermediate tyres with the sort of upper half not pitting as of yet. But if they've seen a gap in that weather, then, well, we'll see what happens. We can see the moisture on track is coming down, but it is still raining relatively hard, enough for me to be thinking Inters are going to be the choice of tyre, to be the fastest choice of tyre at the moment. But are they going to overcome a pit stop in time? But either way, the lead drivers of Sophia, Lyle and Bertie are soon going to have to come into the pits if they like it or not, because their fuel is going to run out. So the decision is going to be made for them somewhat soon.
Yeah, obviously, in these sort of conditions, you burn through a little bit more fuel than you do tyres. And Murph coming in with only 2%. Yeah, I was going to say, kind of very final, cutting it to perfection, probably, Murph there. But a lot of drivers deciding to go onto the intermediates. Sophia Is she going to go around for another lap? Is she going to pit? Looks like she's going to go around for another lap. And obviously blue flags for Druid at the moment. Obviously, Sophia eager to get past Druid and maybe eke out a little bit of a gap between herself and Kirk here onto lap number 19.
Yeah, Druid might be having a word with him after the blue flags on this one, because Sophia's definitely within a second and a half, 2 seconds of the 13th place man at the moment. But Sophia's going to be wanting the Druid, the Lexus driver, to jump out of the way. But then again, there's a whole raft of cars right in front of Sophia at the moment. I think we saw Murph rejoining. I think in 10th there. Ziggy comes in now as well for P5. I think we're going to have a few wet runners left, but I think Sophia is going to be wanting those lap drivers to be jumping out the way anytime soon.
Yeah, and I was just having a look at Kirk as well. He can just about see Bertie in the distance. And I don't think Bertie has come into the pits yet, so just goes to show that it may have potentially made the right call, did Kirk.
Yeah, and Damo off again somewhere in the middle sector, thus proving it's still very, very difficult as Simon jumps out the way of the lead lap cars. Always very aware of the drivers around him, very, very good, and very adult Simon on that one. Very respectful. Sophia comes around again. But yeah, we did see, I think it was Damo off in that sector. So it's still tricky out there, and we're now definitely in intermediate territory. But it looks like Sophia is extending this stint, perhaps trying to get into a window where a one-stop could be possible. Because those wet tyres are only starting to wear now. Because there's less water, Lyle comes into the pits, because there's less water on the track, those tyres are going to be heating up much, much more rapidly and wearing much faster than what they would have done before. The Inters will be much better suited to these conditions. But that said, Sophia is going to be sort of getting to that window as Kirk dives running outside Sturdy into turn 1, with Bertie following him through there.
Yeah, bit interesting decision to make a move there, because probably one of the riskiest moves that Kirk's needed to take. But I mean, it's very brave for him for doing it, and brave for Bertie to follow as well, because that could have been a little bit scary if that move did go a little bit wrong. But I mean, Bertie has managed, obviously, to keep that P3 at the moment. He's doing pretty well. But Kirk obviously making maybe the best strategic call to come into the pits when he did. Obviously, like I say, he saw that maybe gap in the weather and thought, now's my chance. But like I say, with Sophia, potentially trying to make a one-stop work, maybe potentially go on to the intermediates now to the end. Although it does look like the track is drying up pretty quickly. So will she try and extend a little bit and try and get that maybe a set of mediums on the car? We shall see. I think it's a bit too wet for those slick tyres at the moment, especially if you were to go offline, like she did a little bit there.
No, she wanted the pit. She couldn't do it.
She couldn't come into the pits. Oh, that was a tough thing to see. You could see how desperate she wanted to go into the pits there, but had to catch that slide and go round for another lap.
Yep.
Not what she wanted ideally.
Yeah, fuel was going to be an issue for Sophia on that one. She was already on fumes, and if she'd have come into the pits on that one, that would have been a 3-second penalty for crossing the white line. So Sophia putting herself in a position she did not want to be in. And one thing I wanted to say is in the previous lap, Kirk, I think, was 3.5 seconds faster on those intermediate tyres. Those Inters are very well suited to these conditions. But that said, Sarah, I don't think we're far away from slick tyres. The pit lane's wet, but the rest of the track is drying out.
I've been watching that moisture bar coming down and down, and it looks like it's just about to enter that first third. So obviously we all know that is the slick tyre kind of territory. But he's in the pits at the moment. Yeah. We shall see what tyres he's gone onto. Will he be the bravest of them all and potentially go for a slick tyre? We shall see. Oh, Bertie's gone for softs. He's now... He's the bravest of them all, in my opinion. Yeah, he's going to have to be careful as he comes out of the pit lane here.
He's going to have to be careful.
See how slow...
Yeah.
Oh.
That's
he
ambitious.
Needs to keep on the... Yeah, and obviously with Sitterly and Nesbitt not too far behind, he's going to have to be very careful into this turn 3 here. It looks like there's still certain sections of the track that are a little bit wet and slippery, especially those curbs. So Bertie will need to stay well clear of those curbs. It looks like he just doesn't have the traction at the moment compared to the drivers around him. So maybe a bit too early. But if he can keep that car facing in the right direction, it might work out in his favour.
Yeah, this is something that he did, and I believe it was season 2. He stayed on soft tyres when it rained in that one, and he ended up with the, I think it was a win, or at very least a podium in that season. Sophia did make it round to the pits on 0 fuel. Might have coasted in. Kirk takes the lead again. Bertie has fallen behind Sidley and Joe, but maybe just choosing to let them go while he finds the grip in that McLaren on those slick tyres.
Because I was just having a look on board at Sidley and Nesbitt. Look at their tyre wear on those intermediates. They are starting to heat up spectacularly, and they are burning through that rubber. Yeah,
Sidley's playing it very, very smart. He is moving on to the wet parts of the track to cool those tyres down. It will lose you a little bit of time moving across the track, but critically, as Joe follows him down to turn 1, critically, you cool off the tyres a little bit and it will extend the life of them. Sophia, medium tyres, full tank, she's going to the end.
Yeah. Is this the end of the wet weather? We shall see. Like I said earlier, we don't have access to the weather radar compared to the drivers. So maybe potentially Sophia, seeing that there is no incoming rain going onto those medium tyres, that could be what potentially might win her the race. She's come out just in front of Bertie, who's the other slick tyre runner at the moment. So obviously the two slick tyres dealing with a bit of unknown territory together. And I'm sure Bertie will be following Sophia's lead as much as he can.
Quite right, and Sophia relishes these conditions. That is going to put our current leader under pressure. I don't mean the Queen and David Bowie song, but Kirk is going to be feeling it now, because it's up to him to either feel out where the weather is going. His coach still hasn't pitted on those wet tyres in P2 as he now comes in. That's a great stint on those wet tyres, particularly with that fuel. But between Kirk and Lyle, and I believe Sidley and Joe, all running those intermediate tyres, they're going to be wanting to at least get into a position where they can see any potential future weather coming in, or presuming it stays dry, try and get into a position where they know they can make the end. Because one critical thing about fueling up at halfway in the wet with all the fuel that you need, you use more fuel in the dry. So if they've filled up at halfway with a full tank, using a full tank, they're not going to make it in the dry. So Sophia is going to be very, very nip and tuck to making a one-stop work if it stays dry, whereas anyone coming in 3 or 4 laps later will most probably, if not definitely, make it to the end. So this is where it gets strategically very interesting, Sarah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was just thinking, while you were talking about kind of strategic calls, obviously Sophia going for the medium tyres, whereas Bertie going for the soft tyres. So has Bertie seen maybe some incoming weather, obviously going for the softer tyres, thinking that he has to come into pits maybe for another set of intermediates or wets, obviously with some maybe interchangeable weather conditions. Obviously it looks like Simon and Coach going for the medium tyres, so they've seen the two runners of Sophia and Bertie go to the slicks, and they want a bit of slick action as well. But as you say, obviously Coach is stuck on those medium tyres for quite a while. The wet tyres for quite a while, and going on to the medium tyres. That has brought him out just in front of the leader of Kirk at the moment. But you can see that front right tyre of Kirk is about half worn. So, like you say, a little bit under pressure is Kirk now to make maybe a strategic call coming up shortly if the weather is going to stay like this, where it starts to dry out. But Sophia looks like she's going to try and make a move to pass Nesbitt just in front. We shall see. Obviously, on the two on very different tyres. Sophia having to take some evasive action going into the inside line. It looked like nearly got caught out by Joe's braking there, but manages to avoid any contact and get in front of him at the same time.
Yeah, a little bit of dicey action there. So anyone on those slick tyres taking the inside line, particularly into turn 1 where it is not used, they're going to be diving onto a wet line. So Lots of guts there from Sophia and all the drivers around, frankly, on that one. But at this point, I'm starting to wonder, did Kirk inadvertently play a bit of a blinder earlier on? Because the longer he goes on those inter tyres, which are most likely still the fastest tyre on track, just about, due to the mixed conditions, Kirk still with the fastest lap. The longer he goes, the less fuel he's got to take on, and we're sort of entering territory. Sophia runs wide onto a damp patch and just runs off the track. It's so easy to do. Bertie on those slick tyres will get through past Sophia, past Joe. Joe now struggling with the rear tyres, which are now heating up way too much. Damo getting out of the way. Drops Sophia back down the grid. It just proves if you go offline round here in these conditions, you are going off into the gravel. But Kirk, as I was going to say, I'll finish that point. The longer he goes, and he's only got a lap or two left of fuel, flashing his lights at Coach, who was it the driver he was racing in the sprint race. Oh, Coach has got to get out of the way, so does Druid, but they're in their own fight. They're not looking behind, they're looking forwards. But I will finish that point. Kirk is now at the point where he's going to be thinking, I can definitely go to the end on the fuel as soon as I pit, but what tyres does he go to? If he sees a weather vane coming in, a wet weather, he's going to want to stretch it out for some more inters or wets, or go to slicks, and he gets out of the way. He pits.
Yeah, I think obviously being maybe held up a little bit by the battle in front of him, but it's obviously a good decision to come into the pits with a low amount of fuel. We'll see what tyres he goes on to very shortly, and we'll see where when Bertie and Sophia end up. But obviously going back to Sophia, obviously making a little bit of a trip into the gravel, it still goes to show you it's high risk at the moment with those changing conditions and the drying conditions, because it is a little bit slippery if you do hit a wet patch or a bit of curb. So obviously Sophia being a little bit stung by that at the moment. But as we see on board with Kirk there, picking up some fuel, changing his tyres. We'll see what tyres he does come out on very shortly. Sicily still in that P3 position at the moment, Lyle in P2, and it looks like Kirk is going to get ready to come out of the pits soon, nearly taking on a full tank of fuel, about 90% he's taken on, and he's gone to the mediums. This could be the tyre that gets him to the end if he can stretch that fuel.
I'm kind of surprised he's gone for mediums, because we know from past experience around here, Red Bull Ring is a very low wear track. I think he could have got away with softs there, Sarah, but he's probably gone for a tyre which is either more suited to his driving style, or he prefers the balance of it. But regardless, Kirk probably going to the end of the race, like you say.
Yeah, and obviously I was having a look at Bertie's tyre wear. Not as, like you say, not as bad as what you would normally see on a soft tyres. So, like I say, potentially Bertie going on the softer tyre might see him grab a podium here, as we see Sitterly, Nesbitt and Murph into the pits, all looking like they're going onto slick tyres, and Nesbitt on the hard tyres here.
Yeah, that's ambitious. I can only wonder if he's accidentally gone with that.
Potentially, as it looked like he nearly made a slide coming out of the pit exit there. But yeah, maybe potentially a little bit of a miscommunication to his pit crew, or just wanting to simply make it to the end of the race. But we'll see obviously where that decision puts him very shortly, as we see the Smurf, the Welsh Smurf coming round as well. Druid going on to the mediums. Looks like Lyle at the moment is on the back of the Welsh Smurf, currently in P1. Yellow flag.
Oh, it's cleared now.
Oh, it looks like Druid. Unfortunately, I think the yellow flag was Druid having a little bit of a moment coming out of turn one. That has brought the Welsh Smurf and Lyle. Maybe potentially then a little bit of sliding as he came out of the pits. Smurf going very wide. Unfortunately, I think missed his braking point there, and unfortunately nearly took out Druid with him. But obviously Lyle wanting to get through this little pack here. Blue flags will be waving. Druid unfortunately picking up a 3-second penalty, so it does look a little bit of an accident he had coming out of the pits.
Most likely, because that's one of the only places you can pick up a straight 3-second penalty. That pit exit is going to be wetter than the rest of the track, and on slick tyres, so easy to lose. And we do see Druid, he's off again.
Unfortunately, and it looks like another driver followed him off as well. Murph, unfortunately, into the gravel as well. So those two drivers trying to get their cars going again, get him out of the gravel, and get those stones out of the tyres. But yeah, unfortunately, those two having a little bit of a trip into the gravel. It just goes to show again, even if you in these sort of conditions. Oh, we still have. Is that Lyle still on the intermediate tyres that I saw? Obviously, he's sticking out those tyres and trying to keep them going for as long as he can. Saying that, he's coming into the pits.
Yeah, I think that is all he can manage on those intermediate tyres. Those rear tyres were shot. So at the end of the day, I think that is the logical decision for him to come in and go for those. Well, he's going to have to go for slick tyres. There's no other option at the moment. But it looks like that might be it for the rain in this race. Kirk out front on those medium tyres looks rather happy, and he seems to be cooling those tyres. Maybe worried about a little bit of wear, so cooling the temperature off on them. Sophia in second, most likely going to the end, but might need to fuel manage. Bertie in P3, we know he's going to have to pit again, but he is most likely, if he waits a few more laps, say he runs about lap 32, 33, that pit exit is going to be hopefully a lot drier for him. As you can see, Lyle coming out the pits now on those soft tyres. The pit lane exit, you have to go very slowly to be able to survive it, but it's going to dry out, and that might make for a quicker pit stop the longer you leave it. Ziggy in P7 into the pits as well, again probably coming off those inters onto slick, so keep an eye on that Alpha. He's going to be wanting to put a little bit of a, well, Kirk off the road. That is not what we expect. He has had a very imperious race so far, but he's feeling the pressure, Sarah. He's got to be feeling the pressure from Sophia.
Obviously, Sophia having to navigate a little bit of lapped traffic at the moment. Smurf just about managed to let Sophia go there. We'll see if he lets Bertie go as well. But yeah, I think Kirk a little bit under pressure here. As Smurf held up Bertie a little bit there. I think Bertie will have some words to say afterwards. Obviously, he wants to maybe pretend, potentially put himself as a contender for the win, or if not the podium for sure. But Kirk feeling the pressure here. He'll see obviously Sophia and Bertie in his rearview mirror. So minimal mistakes for Kirk. Oh, Sophia! Oh no! Talking about pressure. Sophia unfortunately got a little bit of curb coming over that turn one, and spinning round. That does promote Bertie into P2. Maybe Kirk sighs a big sigh of relief there.
Oh,
as we see Bertie going a little bit wide as well.
They're all doing it. They're all pushing just that little bit too hard on those slick tyres and coming off the track. Bertie, who had a little bit of an open goal there to drive into between himself and Sophia, has now put himself back under pressure, and we did see Lyle, who had a 3-second penalty, so again another one with a pit exit. But there you go, Coach and Sitterly at the same time.
That was almost a synchronised spin by Coach and Sitterly there.
New Olympic category.
Obviously both. I would say both two drivers having doing a little bit of ballerina style stunts there, doing a nice little pirouette between the two of them. That was very synchronised. Well done, guys. But Sicily doesn't manage to get going, and so does Coach. The two going side by side into this turn 3 here. And it looks like Coach is kept in front of Sicily at the moment, but that was very entertaining.
It was. I reckon that's a new Olympic category, synchronised spinning.
Yeah, I think we could start that, and I think at the moment they'd get a gold medal for that.
It certainly would, even if unintentional. Right, and here we see Sophia on the back of Bertie. This is going to be a move. We've ever seen one. I would put money on this. Good. I'm glad I didn't have to, because I would have been a bit worried halfway through that one. But Sophia back up to P2. It looks like she's making that fuel last. I'm now less worried that she's going to make it to the end on that one, but she's still got to do a bit of a mammoth stint of about 21 laps on those tyres. That said, Kirk can't take it easy despite Sophia having that spin last lap. Kirk's going to have to make sure he keeps the pace up and absorbs that pressure from Sophia.
Yeah, as we see, Kirk just making his way past Simon there. Like you say, obviously the pressure's off maybe a little bit, but it's not off entirely. He'll be aware that obviously Sophia, she will be maybe potentially driving a little bit angry here, because obviously rare mistake from her. Oh, that was lucky that Damo ghosted there. It did look like he positioned himself right in the middle of the track and a few drivers were coming past. But yeah, going back to Sophia, she'll be driving, determined to try and catch Kirk up again. And we've still got about, I'd say, 11 laps to do so. So the pressure's not off just yet. Talking about pressure, Sicily keeps applying that pressure to Coach here, although Coach is a little bit of the master of defence. So we'll see if Sicily can crack. So Sicily mounting a bit of a challenge on Coach here. Coach looked a little bit sideways coming out of that corner here, and Sicily in the Lexus is quite close to the back of the Supra here. Oh, I thought there was a little bit of a tap between the two there, but yeah, Sicily really mounting the pressure on Coach here. We shall see how this ends up shortly, but like I say, obviously Coach managing the Supra. Maybe potentially we might see the Supra come alive again here. We know his pace in the sprint race, and these are sort of the conditions that the Supra and Coach will like. So we'll see if Sicily can get past Coach within the start of this new lap. Both taking a lot of curb there, and obviously the spray, you can tell the curbs are not dry as yet. But Sicily still behind Coach for now. Will he pull out a little bit? We shall see. But Bertie not too far behind Sophia here, but that fuel light of Bertie's McLaren is lighting up. Oh, Lau having a big snap of a power slide coming out of that corner there.
He's going to be careful as well. These two are only a few seconds behind him.
Yeah, as we see Cypher getting past Damo here. Damo pulling out to the right-hand side. Sicily also pulling out to the left-hand side, trying to go around the outside of Coach in turn 3. Not a move that we've seen a lot of, especially in these conditions, but unfortunately, no change of position for Sicily into that corner there. But yeah, Bertie will have to come into the pits very shortly mid-lap because that fuel light of that McLaren is flashing.
Yeah, and he's not going to be wanting to because the conditions right now are really playing in. Yellow flag in sector 2 somewhere, but Bertie's not going to want to because those soft tyres are going to be working beautifully. Simon looks like he's had an excursion somewhere and unfortunately done a bit of damage to his M6, but the guys in the pits will be happy to replace and fix any issues that he has. So, looking at P4, looks like this is where the battle is going to be. It looks like Lyle's a little bit unsettled by these weather conditions at the moment. Coach and Sicily are coming at him at a rate of knots, and they're going to have to be sort of keeping the pace up because they might be well aware that Bertie still has to pit again. So, these guys are going to be fighting with Bertie soon as his final pit stop is over and done with. But at the moment, Sarah, it looks like it's tiptoeing around at the moment, staying on the dry bit of the track, on that dry line. And like you mentioned a minute ago, those curbs are still full of water. And as Lyle found out, coming wide over turn 1, ended up basically 90 degrees perpendicular to the barrier. That's not a sight you want to be seeing if you're driving. But one sight
not ideally.
No, one sight you are going to be wanting to see if you're Sophia is seeing that flashing light of the McLaren for fuel for Bertie in P3, as he's going to be surely in this lap.
Yeah, and obviously it will release Sophia a little bit. She won't have to look behind for a little bit at that McLaren. But obviously Bertie, like I say, probably doesn't want to pit, but has to. But Coach, diving to the inside of Lau here. And what a move by Sicily. Sicily goes, no, I don't want to get involved in that. And gets past both of them. What a move by Sicily there. Kept it clean while Coach and Lyle had a little bit of contact. But just goes to show, right place, right time for Sicily. Yeah,
that's our equivalent of the Hamilton go through moment, with Sicily taking 2 positions in one corner right there. Bertie, now having a second to chill out, picks up some new tyres and fuel. Will he come out in front of this big battle? Yellow flags again. Someone's off in the final corner. Again. Someone is having a spin in the final corner. I don't know who that is. We will see in a moment. And was that Druid?
Potentially. It was Druid, yes. Druid having a little bit of a moment coming out of the final corner. Maybe potentially picking up and rear damage as well. So potentially looked like maybe caught a little bit too much curb there, which unsettled the car. And potentially into the barriers he went.
But where's Bertie? He's come out. Bertie's come out clear in P3 with fresh, soft tyres. That's very good for him. He's going to be ecstatic there. He's just got to keep the car on the track at the moment. But this is the kind of track and conditions where you more need to be in the groove than have brand new tyres. So can Bertie keep that P3 position?
Yeah, I think, like you say, picking the perfect time to come in and pits, and into a gap between himself and Sitterly. Although I think Sitterly will be eager to apply a little bit of pressure to Bertie as well. See if Bertie cracks under that pressure. We shall see. But a little bit of a battle between Coach and Lyle is starting to emerge here. But the previous lap, I did unfortunately see. Oh yeah, the close between those two there. But Ziggy having a little bit of an off-track excursion as well.
Murph taking a excursion off the track there. That's interesting for him, and having another one as well while he's at it. He'll get back on the track eventually. But Lyle there, he's under pressure. He's coming in the pits.
Oh, was that intentional?
I don't know.
It looked like he caught the car and maybe had double, kind of had to double take if he wanted to come into the pits. I'm not sure if that was entirely intentional. We shall see.
Neither. We'll have to ask him that one after the race. But that does release Coach up into P5 to chase after Sitterly and Bertie, who, let's face it, Bertie with those soft tyres is looking like he's in the pound seat as Lyle comes in and takes on perhaps he just figured that he needed some more fuel to make it to the end with this increased fuel burn from the drying track. But I think we saw earlier on, we both saw it when Kirk did a dive up the inside of DGen. Lyle does it again. He loves the pits in turn 1.
Kept out the barrier though, thankfully. No damage.
Yeah, and that will put him under pressure from DGen, who is freshly lapped, but he is going to be chasing down Lyle. Lyle doesn't look comfortable in these conditions. He looked much more comfortable in the wet earlier, Sarah.
Yeah, just goes to show obviously those interchangeable conditions. Sometimes when you get into the groove in one of them and it dramatically changes.
Yeah.
Yep. I've just spotted what you've spotted.
Yeah. When did that happen?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. We must have missed that.
So, Sophia up to P1. Looks like Kirk he's dropped 12 seconds in the last lap. After that pass on DGen, maybe he had lit up the tyres in turn 3 or a subsequent corner, but Kirk down to P2. I think the question now is, can Kirk either get back past Sophia, or does Sophia have to stop again?
Yeah, potentially. And just looking a little bit further behind them, City trying to mount a challenge on Bertie as well. Bertie obviously be eager to try and hold off and keep that P3 position at the moment. But yeah, I think they're just coming onto the back of Ziggy, obviously, who'll be showing those blue flags. But I think Kirk trying to get past Cypher again here. Cypher pulling off to the right hand side onto the wet little part of the track. Probably doesn't want to go onto the wet part of the track too much. We've got another yellow flag.
Where did he go?
Was that Cypher? Yeah, I was going to say, was that Cypher just skimmed past the cameraman there?
You were right, you didn't want to be on that part of the track.
No, he didn't, and a bit of damage to the front. But yeah, I think obviously the wet probably didn't make those mediums feel very good into the braking zone, and hence why we saw a very fast Cypher go past the cameraman.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, hopefully the rest of the field can relax. Remember, part of the track is still wet, which is still biting some of the drivers, even but what we assume is bitten Kirk, who has looked rather in a league of his own for a large proportion of this race, now running P2. But at the moment, we do have on the main straight Ziggy watching a battle between Bertie and Sisley, but now Kirk is on the back bumper of Sophia. Can Sophia manage to take that AMG to the end on a quarter of a tank? I mean, Kirk has plenty of fuel. I'm not sure. Oh, Sophia, very loose. Finding out those curbs are still full of water. But can Sophia take
Yeah, not
that car to
ideally
the
how
end?
you want to find out.
No, I mean, last thing you want is to fight for the lead and finding out a curb's still full of water. But that is what we saw.
Yeah, and just sending a bit of spray Kirk's way as well by hitting those curves. A very Danny Rick style tactic there by Sophia, maybe potentially. If you know what I'm on about, then good. If not, get to know, basically. But yeah, obviously Sophia having a menacing Kirk in that very bright purple Genesis at the moment, looking down and trying to get past her again to reclaim his P1 position. But again, Sophia, she's not an easy driver to pass once obviously she's got into the lead. So we'll see if Kirk can try and potentially create a little bit of a space to go into. But at the moment, Sophia keeping him behind in that P2 position. But I've got to say, I'm enjoying the battle between Bertie and Sicily as well. That seems to be heating up quite a bit. Although saying that, unfortunately, it does look like Sicily, obviously being on the medium tyres as opposed to Bertie on the soft, Bertie has been able to create a little bit of a distance or a little bit of a gap between himself and the Lexus driver, who I think has Ziggy just behind him at the moment. Ziggy being a lap down, unfortunately, at the moment in that P10 position. But I've got to applaud all the drivers so far for getting this far into the race, because it's not been an easy one for sure.
Yeah, agreed. These conditions have been tricky. Fortunately for a lot of drivers, they would be very happy it started in the wet and then worked towards the dries. We do see Sturdy have a bit of a moment by himself, I think, in the final corner there. Oh, and there's definitely a spin about there. Sturdy having fun with those curves, and where the Druid coming in, he's had a lot of damage. And Sturdy keeping a watchful eye on him from the other side of the barrier.
That did look quite funny.
It did a bit.
It looked like he was peeping over the barriers there.
There we go again.
But yeah, unfortunate. The hardest bit after having a spin is trying to get that car restarted again, and obviously it is quite slippy at the moment. We've missed it again.
They've done it again.
We've missed
Sophia
it again.
Looks like she has had a moment out of turn 1 because her last lap was solid, I can only presume, getting up on the curb and doing another full 360.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunate there. But that does promote Kirk back into that P1 position. He'll be very happy indeed with only 3 laps to go. Obviously, he'll be trying to make no mistakes if possible. Looks like Ziggy's had a moment as well, coming out of the final corner. Obviously, even this far into the race, the track conditions still posing a little bit of a challenge, especially those curbs. I think the drivers, obviously, they feel like they can... It should be dry by now-ish, but the curbs are going, nope, not yet. But it just looks like Coach has just got past Druid there. Obviously, blue flags for Druid, and I think Druid's had a bit of a challenging race in these sort of conditions, but he's doing well in that P13 at the moment, moving out of the way of Ziggy.
Sophia in.
But it looks, yeah, Sophia in potentially.
We know what that's
maybe
for.
wants that fastest lap.
Yeah, we knew exactly what that was as soon as that cropped up. But the question is, with that spin, is she going to have enough of a gap to Bertie?
Ooh, maybe. Obviously, we see Bertie being maybe held up a little bit by the 4GT driver in front of him. But it's going to be close. It's going to be close indeed. I think Bertie's just about to come through that penultimate corner, going into the final corner now. Yeah, it looks like Sophia will get out in front of Bertie. So obviously very lucky indeed. And she sets herself up for the fastest lap potentially.
I would agree on that. It's such a crawl coming out of that pit lane with the track still being wet there. Bertie will stay in P3, although I'm quite sure he's going to be happy with the result, but it's not going to be an easy result for him because he's still got Sicily following him through turn 1, showing that the difference in tyres doesn't make much of a difference around this track. So there's still a battle for P3 on Coach, and he's done it again. Turn 1, catching drivers out several times in this one. He's going to do another quick spin turn. Be careful not to come into any traffic. Joe coming around turn 1. Will he get the drop on Coach? And maybe into turn 3. But that turn 1, Sarah, has been the bane of a lot of drivers' lives in this one. Kirk in as well. He's thinking the same thing.
Oh, it's going to be a fight to the death for that fastest lap. He knows exactly what Sophia is planning and wants to try and keep that extra points all to himself. A bit greedy, but we like it.
That's 3 vital points.
Yeah, and obviously it goes to show that Kirk, although happy with a win, he'll be happy if he can get a win and the fastest lap under his belt. He seems to be just about coming out of the pits now. Sophia coming around the final corner, so obviously that gap has helped him come out in first place again. But it's gonna be close. Obviously, he's gonna have to crawl out of the pits, not put that power down too early. No mistakes.
That makes me nervous. Careful.
That makes me nervous as well. He's come around the first corner. Probably not the exit that Kirk wanted there.
That's a risky. I don't know, but I feel that was a risk he didn't need to take. He's put himself under pressure in the final lap for the sake of 3 points.
High risk, potentially high reward. We don't know as yet.
Maybe.
Obviously, we'll have to see if Kirk in that final lap can get that fastest.
He's behind Degen again.
Yeah. Not probably once as we see Joe having a bit of a spin and collecting the barrier, a bit of rear damage for that Ford GT driver. But I mean, it just goes to show the track is still biting some of the drivers. And like you say, obviously Cypher, he will have to move out the way for Kirk here.
Yeah, and we still have this battle between Sidley and Bertie still going on. So neither of the drivers wants to give up, both wanting that podium. But I'm going to have to say, Kirk is going to have to be...
he dives out the way. Cypher dives out the way. He has released Kirk here.
Yeah. If I were Kirk, I didn't really would not want to be in the position that he's put himself in, having Sophia so close to him, with the track that is still damp straight off the racing line. But like you say, high rewards. But yeah, it's a tricky one. So good luck to Kirk. We'll see now. It's a qualifying sim as Sophia does steal the fastest lap with 1 lap to go. Kirk's only going to get 1 shot at this. Didn't look particularly great coming through turn 1. Sophia looking a little bit quicker, a little bit more fluid and smooth. An extra lap under her belt with the slick soft tyres.
Potentially, Sophia had less fuel. Obviously carrying a little bit less weight than Kirk. Will that affect him for this fastest lap? As Sophia going faster yet again, it's going to be close between the two.
It really is at this point, and now it's going to be do or die for Sicily to steal a podium. Coach looks like he has, despite the spin a couple of laps ago, wrapped up P5. He has held off Joe, who obviously had that spin coming out of the final corner. Lyle has, unfortunately, with those couple of incidents in turn 1, fallen away a little bit during this race, but he can be quite happy finishing 7th, and Ziggy... Cypher's got up to 8th, Ziggy up to 9th, Smurf in 10th, Murph in 11th, and then Murph having another excursion onto the out of the track. Druid in 12th, Sturdy is going to be in 13th, Damo with an early spin in the opening laps in 14th, with our own Super Simon in 15th. Always does well in the wet weather, but looks like Kirk is going to take the win here. Will he get the fastest lap, Sarah?
Oh, I don't know, I think it's going to be close. Sophia obviously following him round.
Nope.
He doesn't get the fastest lap, and Sophia improving on her fastest lap as well. Very close between the two. High risk, little reward for Kirk, but he took the risk, and obviously we can applaud him for taking that risk.
Agreed.
But he comes home in P3, and Sitley just quite close behind in that P4 position. What battle those two had in that final stint. As we join Coach, he's coming around the final 2 corners here. Like I said earlier, should be very happy with a P5 finish.
He's coming across the
this
spinner.
Race is going to throw everything at him.
Yeah,
who's that in front? I think, is that Ziggy slightly in front? I can't quite...
You called it.
It is Ziggy. Yeah, unfortunately Ziggy having a bit of a spin. But Coach in that P5 position, just narrowly avoiding the Ziggy spinning around, as we have Joe in that 4GT with a little bit of rear end damage, coming home in P6. Damo finishing just on the road P14, but behind Nesbitt. And currently, I think the last runner is on this lap is Lyle in that Ferrari, coming around the final couple of corners now. The fuel light flashing, very wide, coming in. That Ferrari being a bit of a handful in that last couple of corners for Lyle, snapping one way and then snapping back the other, but finishes in P7.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Lyle there. Definitely getting a little bit sideways, and he's not going to have wanted to have done that. But, well, that was a very interesting race there, Sarah. And, well, what can we say? Kirk definitely got away with it in that finale there for the feature race victory with Sophia following him behind. But where do we start, Sarah? Where do we start on that? Well, I guess we go to the stewarding results straight away. We have a quick look around. And the stewarding results simply say that there's a 5-second penalty for Smurf, and that's it for this race. A very clean race, all in all, and it's good to see all of the drivers out there, despite all of the tricky conditions and all the multiple pit stops. They all basically drove very, very cleanly, so it's great to see from every driver out there. And, well, a quick rundown of the results. Kirk takes P1, Sophia P2, Bertie in P3. All three of them will be exceptionally happy with themselves. Followed by Sicily, Coach, Joe Nisbet, Lyle, Dejan Cypher, Ziggy, Smurf, Murphy, Druid, Sturdy, Damo, and then Simon. But Sarah, what a race I feel on that one. The Blue Lobby doing us proud today.
Oh yeah, 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself, because obviously the weather conditions, that was one challenge, and obviously it then changed about halfway through, posing another set of challenges for the drivers, obviously for strategic calls, obviously grip levels, fighting the cars. I think a lot of the drivers would probably learn something new about their cars today during this race, for sure. But I think that sets them up for the rest of the season. They know how their cars handle in these sort of weather conditions, which is obviously good data going into some other wet races in this season. But I think all drivers should definitely pat themselves on the back, because it wasn't easy for sure. So yeah, I think very proud of all the drivers in this race, and yeah, like I say, they provided with us yet another good and great.
Well, I think the question for us now is, after all the points are tabulated, the most important thing: who's driver of the day?
Ooh. Now that is a tough one.
I've been looking at results, and I think it's a very tricky one, because there's a very good shouts out there. But I'd be very tempted, despite the incident in the sprint race with DJ and Cypher, to Kirk to take driver of the day for this one, because he did command quite a lead in that feature race for a long time. But on the flip side, he did put himself in danger, but he did take the risk to go for the fastest lap, and that risk, to me, is worth something. And he did take the win, and he did have a podium in the sprint race as well. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. I think, like I say, obviously unfortunate that there was a bit of an incident, but I think apart from that, he's done a good job. Took some risks that some of them maybe potentially didn't pay off, but it's all about taking the risks and kind of, going for it, even if they don't work out. It's a good kind of mentality to have. So yeah, I think driver of the day should definitely be Kirk. I think there's some definitely honourable mentions, especially obviously Bertie in this feature race, having an outstanding performance, as well as obviously drivers like Sitterly, Coach, Lyle. I think we could probably list everything that everyone, because they've all had their standout moments during the race today. So yeah, I think Kirk for overall driver of the day, but everyone else should be pretty proud of their performance.
Right there with you. The only reason I wouldn't include Sophia in that is just the sheer fact she was only in the feature race, but Bertie definitely drew on his knowledge of previous wet races around here and made those soft tyres work, and he's kept it clean all the way through both races, despite what looked like a very interesting move in the sprint, ending up in the gravel ever so briefly. And a shout out to, I think, Sicily and Coach having a great battle, and synchronised spinning, new Olympic category.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It looked fun. Probably not from their perspective, but from ours, looking on board, it looked quite fun.
Yeah, you'd have to think they'd be both giggling and upset with themselves at the same time in that one. But
At least they can share the experience together.
quite right, and it's a memory they'll both cherish for a long time. With that said, Sarah, I think it's time to hand over to the Red Lobby commentators for the feature race there at Red Bull Ring also. So, thank you, Sarah, for being here in this commentary booth with us today, and it's been fun, and it's been great to see our Blue Lobby drivers put on a great race.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Can't wait to see how the Red Lobby drivers get on. Let's see if they can provide us with the amount of action that the Blue Lobby did.
One can only hope. And with that in mind, over to the Red Lobby. And on to the qualifying results for Red Lobby's round 3 here at Red Bull Ring. So, our Season 4 champion really kicking into gear his Season 5 campaign with a tremendous pole position on a 1 minute 29.1 on the soft tyres. Then we have Sophie really getting the maximum out of that R8 on a 129.5, also on soft tyres. Then our Season 3 champion, Katie the Kai, on medium tyres, the only person on the grid, but still getting a 129.6. I can only feel he's still going to be lethal in this race, but he might be a little bit slow out the blocks on those medium tyres. It's going to depend on when he can get them up to temperature. Then P4, we have Koulios on a 129.6. Done very well to take the top 4 in this one, especially considering he is right in front of P5's Fodder, who has got a 129.8. Then McManley, the ever dangerous driver in that 458, 129.8 also. Then Pedro, one of our admin crew, on a 1 minute 29.9. Joined also by Mercedes on a 1 minute 29.9. Only 15 thousandths between them, Sarah.
Yeah, not too far away at all. But in P9 we have Nigel Mansell with a 130 flat. Pretty good going. And in P10 we have T50 Phil setting his time on the softs with a 130.2. Then Charlie in P11 also on the softs with a 130.266. So not far off of Phil's time there. Giles in P12 sets a time of a 130.3. Not too far behind Giles, we then have Midnight in P13 with a 130.4. At P14, we then have T50 Gary with a 130.7. P15, we have Iceman with a 131.4. And I don't know who that driver is in P16 rounding off the grid, but the least said the better. But they set a time of 131.7.
Well, that is our grid here for the red feature race. And what a grid it is, a fully stacked lobby, and it's going to be dicing for all positions on that grid, I feel, coming the end of the race. But there's a few that I'm going to be wanting to keep an eye on during this race, particularly sort of the mid-upper grid, like Koulios, Fodder and Mac and Pedro. You just never know where all those guys are going to be. They just need a good race, and they can overhaul the likes of Katie the Kai and even Dark Lord on a good day. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. With that in mind, Sarah, who's your one to keep an eye on in this race?
Oh, I like the fact that Katie the Kai has gone different and gone on the set of mediums. Obviously, he's offset himself from everyone else, literally. But we all know he likes to do that. I'd have to say probably Fodder is in a quite good position here, P5. He's got some drivers around him that obviously are going to challenge him, but he's in with a chance to do pretty well around here. But I've got to say, obviously, Sophie, starting right behind Dark Lord, maybe she might be able to, get in the lead nice and early and maybe tussle with the Dark Lord. But obviously, the Dark Lord, we know how he loves to be in the lead, so I'm sure he's going to try and hold on to it for as long as possible. But also, Midnight yourself, I think in P13. He's got a bit of a challenge on your hands to get through the grid, but I wouldn't write you off.
Well, I'll take that positivity, and I'll just simply say you can never You can never guess what's going to happen in one of these kind of races, especially since we have some weather forecast for this Red Lobby feature race. So see what happens. But I will just tip one little thing. I think some drivers are a little bit out of position for this qualifying, but considering the qualifying is so close, only a second between the top 10 and then only hundredths if not thousandths between multiple drivers. I'd say keep an eye on drivers like Charlie, who are tremendously quick, and even T50 Phil and Nigel Mansdale. Lots of potential for moving forward through the grid, particularly with that weather incoming. It's really going to be the deciding factor here today, Sarah.
Yeah, and obviously let's hope that some of the drivers have done some wet weather practice just in case.
Yeah, we can only hope. I mean, we have to wait and see, won't we? See what happens. See if that natural ability comes through, or the practice reigns supreme. Or if the rain reigns supreme. Anywho, I think we should go over to the commentators and see what happens.
Right, so all the drivers are rolling towards the start-finish straight. You might notice that the cars are rolling. It's not a grid start because of the weather. We thought a rolling start would be a little bit safer for the drivers. Talking about that, Darklord's just gone over the start-finish straight. He's fully on the gas as well as everyone else. And Darklord getting that pole position. He's already managed to get a little bit of a gap between himself and Sophie, but everyone else going across the start-finish straight, getting ready for turn 1. Everyone seems to be going quite cleanly through turn 1 at the moment, but anything caught your eye, Jared?
The fact that everyone was pretty much single file all the way to Lauda, not what I expected. As we see, it's getting a little dicey already behind Sophie. We've got Fada, we've got Kai, we've got Mac trying to go for the final podium position immediately. Someone went a little wide there.
A big accident there between I think like 6 drivers. I think
that's a lot of cars. That is a lot of cars. 3 Lamborghinis in it, 1 Ferrari. I think Charlie was in there as well.
Yeah, the Lamborghini's getting a little bit unfortunate there. It looked like Giles accidentally tapped Pedro. Pedro went flying round. Then everyone else came into the corner and got a little bit caught out. And basically a bit of door dashing, like door banging, a little bit of facing the wrong way. But they've all managed to get facing the right way again. And hopefully they'll get back into the race as quick as they can. But up the front, we've got Katie the Kai holding off Mercedes at the moment in that podium position. Both the GTRs going at it straight away. Darklord managing to create a little bit more of a bigger gap between himself and Sophie. Everyone else, Mac having a little bit of a tap to Mercedes there before they're not too far behind. Everyone else, apart from that group of 5 or 6 cars, managed to get quite a clean first lap under their belt.
Yeah, and it's going to be important, especially if the rain strengthens, that you don't get yourself in a position where you're going to be uncontrollably spearing into another car, as what we saw with Giles and Pedro there into Remus. As we see Mercedes and Kai going side by side, might be going 3 wide. I wouldn't advise of it to go 3 wide here, guys. Thankfully, cooler heads prevail as we see Max sending one on Mercedes, a little bit of contact. No damage done. But that does allow Fada to get alongside Mac for P5. It's Ferrari versus Porsche. Where have we seen this before?
Yeah, we've seen this quite a bit. And Fodder, I thought potentially might have tried to stick it out on the inside there, but thought slightly better of it and just tucks up behind McManley here. Sophie losing a few positions here, maybe a potential mistake that I didn't quite catch, but unfortunately Sophie dropping off podium, and that promotes Mercedes and Katie the Kai into that podium positions at the moment. But she's not too far behind at the moment, with McManley just behind her rear bumper. But talking about tyre choices, obviously we can see it's not, I was going to say it's not raining, but the rain has literally just picked up as I've said that. It must have heard me talking about it. But it's about half and half. Half the grid are on intermediates, half the grid are on wets. I've caught Midnight going onto the slightly wetter line, as well as Sophie and McManley here. Obviously trying to keep those wet tyres alive, not trying to burn through them too quickly. So it's really kind of half and half on strategy called here at the moment with those tyres.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a dry line right now, despite the rain starting to pick up. So that's why you're seeing guys like Midnight trying to dart off the normal line a little bit. It looks very weird when you see someone do that, trying to pull a Schumacher with no one behind them. But that is to cool their tires so they don't burn up as easy. You see Sophie, she's gone wide in turn 3. Mac, I think, got a little loose as well, so that he couldn't capitalize on the 714's misfortune. Sophie comes to 6th. Meanwhile, Fada up to 4th ahead of Koulios. That Porsche is on the move.
Yeah, and Fodder managing to tame the wild horse of that Porsche. The Porsches sometimes, in the wet, they can be a little bit unpredictable. But Fodder doing an incredible job so far, keeping it facing the right way and making a few positions up while doing so. And Koulios obviously not too far behind. I'm sure he'll be following Fodder around, trying to keep to his line. But the two GTRs are engaging in a little bit of a battle here. That rain has picked up incredibly quickly here. Potentially may catch quite a few drivers out. Obviously, in these sort of weather conditions, if you brake just even that little bit later than what you did on the last lap, it could basically throw you off the course here. As Koulios deciding to go for an overtake on the last corner, forcing Fodder out wide. I'm sure Fodder won't be very happy about that.
No, cool. Talking about throwing your car off track, Koulios did a little bit of that to Fada. But I was going to say, this is the part of the weather where it's going to be a toss-up whether you want to stick to the inners or you want to switch over to the wets. As you said, both tires are in play right now. This is sort of the interchangeable period between them. It's about that final third where you want to start putting on the wets. Not quite there just yet, but we're getting close to there. I think we're going to see the full wet tire within their operating window here soon.
I think so. As we see McManley going side by side with Sophie here into that turn 4/5. I never know what number it is. But Sophie going in the middle of the course, trying to cap off that apex. Quite a late defensive move by Sophie there, but she's stuck it out in front of McManley. Although McManley is clawing that position back from Sophie. The two going side by side here, while Koulios is just behind them, trying to find a gap. But Fodder, obviously eager to get those positions back up again. He's trying to capitalise on these guys, potentially making a mistake. Obviously, it's very easy to do in these sort of conditions. But Charlie potentially going for a move on the inside of Pedro here. Pedro going a little bit wide, getting a little on the curbs quite a bit here. Will Charlie capitalise on that little bit of a mistake from Pedro? We shall see. But having a quick little look back, I believe I caught Phil doing a little bit of a pirouette on the grass out of turn 1. Again, very easily done with that massive sausage curb that's on the corner there. Really does unsettle the cars around here, especially as it's wet. I think that's another thing as well. All the drivers are being so careful not to touch any of the curbs here.
And despite the rain picking up earlier, it's dropped back down a bit, and we have the dry line again. So the drivers running on the wet tires are now, as I talked about the operating window, now they're outside the operating window for the full wet tire. And they're going to start burning up here. Sophie is one of those cars on that tire. She goes wide and loses several spots trying to make a move for 4th place. And that
I can see Koulios darting literally left to right, trying to pick up the wet line, trying to keep temperatures in those tires and try not to burn them up too quickly. Obviously, like you say, doesn't look like the most optimal line, but Koulios trying his best to get as much moisture into those tires as possible. Might lose him a little bit of time if he keeps doing that, because Fodder has seen that the door's open and he has gone for it on the inside of Koulios here. What a move by Fodder there. Quite eager to get past, even in the wet, not afraid to make some late moves.
I think Fodder recognizes that some of the cars around him started on the full wets, which is why he was, I guess, sort of trying to get through Koulios as quick as possible in that McLaren 650S. A lot of these cars on the wets, you could see they're burning through them real quick. Sophie's actually done a great job of keeping them in line. It's about on par with where the inners have been wearing. Koulios as well. I think I saw someone having real bad issues. I think it was Pedro with real bad tires. maybe not as bad as I thought, but they are getting down there. And
Yeah. I think I was just having a look at
go ahead.
Pedro's. It's alright. I was just having a look at Pedro's car while we were doing that, and you can kind of tell with his driving style as well that he's trying to keep hold of them for as long as he can. He's kind of drifting out of quite a few corners here, and Midnight, I think, is he spotted that and he's trying to get out on the back of Pedro as soon as he can. Midnight being in a bit of a sandwich between Pedro and Charlie at the moment, and I'm sure Midnight will try and capitalise on any mistakes from these two. Charlie managing to get a little bit closer to Midnight here. Looks potentially eyeing up a move here. I'm sure Midnight will be super defensive though, trying to make... Oh, Pedro's gone wide! Pedro has gone wide onto the grass and the gravel, losing a few positions to Midnight and Charlie. I mean, we cottoned onto it. Obviously, that potentially maybe loss of tyres there for Pedro. Obviously makes it just that 10 times more difficult to keep hold of controlling that car. And unfortunately, through that bit there, the car not underneath him and not giving him what he wants.
I was also going to mention Charlie. He was part of that lap 1 melee. He's recovered quite nicely. He's up to 10th, battling Midnight for 9th. He's on the intermediate tire, so he's not in as much danger of burning through his tires right now as the 666 is, as he's all the way down to the wall. Camera pans back to Mac and Fada. They're 4th and 5th. They've broken away a bit from the rest of the field there. Koleos, Sophie, and that's Iceman in the number 85 Genesis starting to close in on that pack. He's broken away from the rest. He's on the intermediate tire. I think he's going to try capitalizing on the 2 cars ahead of him being on full wets yet.
Yeah, and talking about the full wet, the rain has picked up a bit here, so it could swing back into the full wet's favour if they've looked after those tyres. Obviously, if they haven't, then they're going to have a little bit more of a tricky time here. Obviously, we're on to lap number 7, so not that far into the race as yet, but everyone doing a quite good job so far. We have Phil that's currently in the pits. Don't know if that... I think that might be a potential retirement. The pits, like you said earlier, eager to know what they need to do, but just standing around at the moment waiting for Phil to make a decision. But apart from that, Charlie is still on the back of Midnight here. And I don't know about you, but I've kept an eye on Mercedes and Dark Lord here. Mercedes doing an incredible job. He's managing to catch up to Dark Lord here. I have a feeling that Dark Lord, obviously he's our reigning champion, but Dark Lord has never really been... I don't want to put him down, but in the wet, he drives a little bit differently to what we'd normally see. In the dry, he's probably one of the fastest drivers that you ever see. In the wet, though, I don't think he's as confident. He kind of, obviously, is still an incredibly fast driver here, but I think in the wet, he really has to kind of, be as careful as he can to keep that Mclaren point in the right way. And I think Mercedes has cottoned onto that because the gap between the two has really come down here.
Yeah, even the rain greats such as Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, they did not like racing in the rain. It's a whole nother beast to driving on a regular dry track, and I recall back to last season, the Dark Lord had a difficult time running around Suzuka. He was behind the wall for half the race, I believe, because it was just not
there.
working.
I forgot about that.
It's just so... We were talking about Pedro's driving style, how he's pushing a little harder, getting the car a little loose. While I do normally like a freer car, this kind of weather means you can't really do that without facing a penalty in the sense of you're going to either burn your tires or you're going to spin yourself out much easier. You do want to try controlling the slide a lot more, as we see Charlie, who has gone ahead of Midnight, getting a little wobbly going into 7 and 8.
Yeah, and again, it's almost like a storm is brewing here because that rain, that doesn't look fun to drive in. So I think all the drivers potentially, bringing it back a notch or two, driving not to 100%, maybe to about, I'd say 80% around here at the moment, because trying to just basically keep the car facing the right way is the most difficult part, especially in these sort of conditions. Like you said, obviously I think the rain as well, it kind of brings that element of a little bit of unpredictability. obviously it changes your driving style completely. Some drivers obviously excel in the rain. Some others, you know, they have to really take a step back and just obviously focus on controlling the car. Talking about that, Pedro making a bit of a comeback here, manages to get past Charlie. Midnight getting past Charlie as well here, and potentially maybe a battle between the two Nighthawk admins, between Pedro and Midnight here. Pedro sticking to that inside line, brakes early to make sure that he doesn't come into contact with Midnight. That might be a bit awkward, the stewarding, the two Nighthawk admins coming together, but they haven't done so as far. But Iceman doing an incredible job in P8 currently, and just having a quick little look through the pack. Mercedes getting a bit closer to Dark Lord again here, but yeah, I think obviously strategy will be an important one coming up soon. As you can obviously tell the people in the wet tyres, if they've still got tread, then I'm sure that's given them a little bit more confidence battling obviously the intensity of the rain that we have at the moment. Intermediates might be a little bit of a different story, might be a little bit more slip and slidey. The drivers currently facing the right way. As I said that, just caught Iceman drifting around that corner. It did look pretty cool but Pedro managing to get on the outside, braking a lot later, and gets that P8 position from Iceman. But Pedro does go a little bit wide. Is that a potential penalty for Pedro as he kind of hung on to that Lamborghini going around the corner? Talking about hanging on, Iceman. Whoa, what a drift from Iceman, but he manages to keep facing the right way. What a catch from Iceman there.
Yeah, and going back to what you said a couple laps ago about the rain, swinging the pendulum back towards the guys with the wet tires, that car has woken up. That car's come alive now that the rain has come down harder. It's pretty much right on the prime window for those wet tires. His tires aren't exactly in the greatest of state, but they don't need to be right now. They're well enough where they could still put down more power than the intermediates can at this stage. You're seeing on that bottom left the water gauge is going into that darker blue region. That's where the wet tires are going to be at their most useful, and the intermediates are going to start getting overwhelmed out there. I'd be curious to know whether anyone's going to bite the bullet here and come in to swap off the intermediates. The top two are on the intermediates, but for how much longer? And of course, for how much longer is the heavy rain going to last? As we see Iceman trying to fight off Midnight for P9. I don't think it's going to quite work, as the McLaren, nice move around the outside there as the 85 once again gets sideways. That Genesis is struggling to put down power as the rain has come down harder. I'm willing to bet the 85 might be one of the first guys to come in.
I mean, I don't blame him if he does, because it does look like a handful to drive that Genesis around Red Bull Ring, especially in this condition. But I mean, Iceman showing obviously how he knows that car pretty well. He knows how to control it. I've not seen him lose the control of the car as yet. It just seems to be showing off his drifting skills at the moment. Talking about Fodder and Koulios, though, those two nearly coming together into turn one. Fodder trying to defend Koulios at the moment. Koulios trying to find a little bit of a gap to go through. Fodder seems to be defending that inside line at the moment, both braking around about the same time. Koulios trying to go for the outside line here. A little bit of a tap to Fodder, but Fodder managing to get that power down a lot earlier than Koulios, and sails away into the P5 position at the moment. Having a little bit look at the battle at the front, it's got ever closer since we last checked in on them. Mercedes not that far away from Dark Lord here, so potentially in the next coming laps we could see a battle for the lead here.
Yeah, I think that GTR with its front engine layout is able to be a little more planted in the rain compared to the mid-engine platform of the McLaren. And I'm wondering if the weight's also playing into it as well. The GTR, as mentioned in the sprint, is a little heftier than the McLaren, and I think that might be keeping it on the ground a little better as the rain intensifies a little more, as we're seeing that darker blue section on the rain gauge getting a little bigger every lap.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the drivers can see from their perspective. Obviously, drivers on board have got that weather radar. It's I've seen Giles coming out of the pits now. Let's see what tyres he goes on to. he's gone for the full wets. And he started on the wets as well, so he's decided to go for another set of wet tyres. Maybe obviously gives yourself a little bit more confidence, obviously knowing that the wet weather tyres will deal with this heavy bout of rain a little bit better than the intermediates. But obviously he's the first of the drivers to come in, pit for a new set of tyres, and potentially will have a lot more grip compared to some of the drivers around him.
Sorry to butt in, Sarah, but the battle for the lead is intensifying greatly between the number 6, the defending champion, and the number 50. Oh, and both of those cars are on the ragged edge. I don't think these cars are going to be staying out much more. They're both getting squirrely on exit here. It's
Dark Lord
it's
seems
gotta
to be
be a
fighting that
chore.
Mercedes, McLaren, wrong car completely. I was looking at Mercedes while talking about Dark Lord, and I confused his name with the car make. But talking about Mercedes is what I meant to say. Actually, yeah, talking about Mercedes in the GTR. How confusing is that? But he seems to, like you said earlier, be able to put that power down a little bit earlier compared to Dark Lord. Dark Lord, I've kept an eye on him for a few corners. He seems to be fighting that McLaren round the corners, trying not to drift it out too much, because that is where he's losing that little bit of time compared to Mercedes just behind. And you can see Dark Lord having to fight that McLaren round turn 1, taking a little bit of a wider line, and Mercedes really capitalising on that here. They've got close. Mercedes nearly touching the rear bumper of that McLaren. He's gone to the outside line. They're going to go side by side. Who's going to brake later? Oh, I think Dark Lord just broke that a little bit later, but Mercedes wants that little bit of a switcheroo. He's lined himself up for it, but unfortunately he can't get the power down just that early enough to capitalise on it. And the two are still in their respective positions, but what a battle it is between these two. I mean, obviously it's harder to battle in the rain, but these two proving that it is possible.
And they're still going at it. I liked what Dark Lord did in defense in turn 3. He tried to stay on the outside, which is honestly the better line to take when you're overtaking someone here at this track, as we see once again side by side, their door banging a little bit. Spray being kicked up by both of them. I think Mercedes has it. I don't think he's cleared him though. He has it! He just does! New leader, car 50, TWR Mercedes, has taken over the lead of this race, but he had a not-so-good exit. That might allow Dark Lord to catch him and win. It's right up on the back bumper casing of that GTR. Anything gonna happen at turn 10? Dark Lord just patiently waiting it out. No one else has followed Giles into the pit lane just yet. None of the top 3 have come in. We are seeing Phil's crew still waiting around the cars. We see, just as the camera panned on Katie the Kai, he's gotten himself a half-second time penalty. And as I say that, Fada has come in to change off of the intermediate tires. So he's the first of the leaders to come in.
He's like, I've had enough of those tyres. Obviously, be interesting to see what tyres he now goes on to. If obviously there's another bout of rain. As I said that, the rain has come down a little bit heavier again. So potentially Fodder keeping an eye on that weather radar. And obviously his fuel. And coming in, making an early call. But I think everyone else is in that weird state at the moment where obviously they want to see how long these tyres can hold on. Because if you can obviously keep those tyres for about, I'd say, a full tank of fuel, that'll put you in a good position for the second stint. But I think obviously some of the drivers burning through the tyres a little bit earlier will have to keep that in mind for when they come in. But Fodder filling up that tank, going back onto, let's see what tyres he comes on. He goes on the wets. So he started on the inters and he's made the call to go into full wets. So he's seen a bout of weather coming in. Charlie also coming out of the pits now, and he's going for a full wet tyres as well. So as you can see, some of the drivers switching up their tyres here for a little bit more grip.
So I wonder if when any more of the leaders are going to come in and chase their tyres. Oh, big slide by Katie the Kai as he gets to the penalty zone. Coolio's trying to exploit as much slipstreaming as he possibly can to catch out that GTR. They're side by side. There might have been a little contact there. Can't really tell, but I think everyone's still running.
Yeah, it's good racing by Koulios there. I saw him leave the door open a little bit for Katie Lakai there. So good racing for Koulios. Obviously, you know, he knows that if he cut Katie Lakai off there, he potentially would have ruined his race.
Yellow flags are out. I think someone's had a moment. Someone's had a moment in the first sector.
It is Giles. Giles has gone round in that first sector, unfortunately.
And he's he's already gone a lap down. So, man, this one has gone from bad to worse for him here. He was involved in that incident lap 1. Now he's spun around, trying to make as much ground as he could. A little side-by-side action for the top 5.
Yeah, and talking about that, Dark Claude went for a very late braking manoeuvre on Mercedes, and the two are fighting side by side through this corner here. Honestly, I winced for about a good minute there because they got so close to taking each other out. But the two at the top 1 and 2 doing an awesome job so far, and Dark Claude getting back into the lead. I don't know how he did that there because it looked like the two were running those cars right to the edge, but the balance has been restored, and Dark Claude into P1, Mercedes into that P2. I think obviously Mercedes having a good taste for that P1, so he wants it back, and I'm sure he'll be eager to fight back to Dark Claude here. Obviously, I think the two keeping an eye on those tyres and fuel, getting very wide coming out of that final corner.
Katie the guy with an absolute opposite lock slide ahead of Sophie. I have no idea how he kept that thing in a straight line. The cars on inners right now are struggling so immensely. As you see it again! Oh, Sophie, hang on to it! No, there it goes! Around she goes, thankfully doesn't hit anything, but now she's got to be careful rejoining the track. Puts it in reverse, she's got the room to get going again. Oh, man. What an unfortunate break for Sophie.
Yeah, I mean, we both caught it at the same time. we both audibly gasped at that. She's so lucky not to pick up damage though, because that could have been potentially, you know, race ending. But I was going to say, control that car in the wet to not crash into a barrier. Well done, Sophie, and I'm sure she'll be able to make those positions back up again.
And sliding that way, that's not easy to keep out of the barrier. So once again, well done to Sophie there. She may have lost a few positions, but I don't think her pride's going to be hurt any bit out of that one. As we see, Sarah, the number 9 has been lapped, so that's 2 cars running that have been put a lap down by the leaders. That number 9 car has been, that car's on the full wets, just came out of the pits, I assume. Meanwhile, Mac is still, the top 3 are still on the intermediate tire. Koulios, I believe, is on the wets, if I remember correctly.
He is, yes,
yes
he is.
He's trying to get around that 24 on the outside. Mac doing a great job defending that position, but I don't think he could do that for too much longer. Ooh, little slide there. Little slide, but the 24 stays ahead of the 71.
Yeah, I think Mac catching Koulios' little bit of a slide there and managed to breathe a little bit for a second there. The pressure was off him for a little bit. But obviously McManley being on the intermediate tyres at the moment, where Koulios is on the wets. Koulios managing to, when he's not sliding out of the corner, manages to put the power down a little bit earlier. But Mac having a little bit of a move there going into turn 1, trying to throw Koulios off just that little bit. Both clipping that curb on the inside line. Then on the power here. I would say that was a drift and a half from Koulios.
I know I get excited every time I see it. You should expect it in this wet weather, but I just keep seeing it. And I think either someone's just had a moment in turn 1 or they've just come out of the pit lane. Not exactly sure which one it was. But as Mac and Koulios have been battling... Oh, speaking of! He goes wide, holds on to him, but he's lost the position. I was about to say, I was about to praise Pedro here. You know, coming alive in this heavy wet weather.
And unfortunately, Charlie losing the BMW as well as the leaders come through. Man,
that's unfortunate for Charlie. He was recovering so well from that first lap incident. It looks like he just put on that set of tires too. So I wonder if they're either too cold or if he just got a little too aggressive on the power there.
I mean, easily done, for sure. But Pedro, he's managed to get on the back of McManley here. Koulios losing position to Pedro here. Pedro, switching from side to side, trying to throw Mac off here. He's racing aggressive. that Lamborghini, like you said earlier, has woken up and it's found an element of grip, and he's trying to use all of that grip as much as he can to get past McManley here. Both on the curbs, which is a dangerous place to be in these weather conditions. But he's got in the slipstream of Mac here. Will he try and pull out alongside for turn 1? Oh, he's eager to go side by side here. Looking for a gap. Goes a little bit wider. Loses a bit of time to McManley there. Potentially.
Yeah, I think the car was sawing the wheel for him there on entry into Lauda. But I will say, the rain has lessened a little bit. So now the guys who stay down on inners might be a little bit more advantaged here. Because now you're going to see the wet tires possibly starting to wear. You're seeing Pedro possibly in the next lap or two, depending on if the track dries anymore. You might see that car go back to sleep here. He's still battling for P3 pretty spiritedly. He's got Koulios to his outside, looking to the inside of Mac. Thinks better of going 3 wide there. I don't blame him. Oh no! Do it! No!
That was a bit of an awkward incident between Pedro and Koulios there. Koulios on the outside line, Pedro on the inside line. But Koulios' car kind of drifted into the front nose of Pedro, and Pedro obviously unfortunately couldn't get out of it and just kept tapping Koulios' car, and Koulios then facing the wrong way. So it looked a bit of an awkward incident between the two. But obviously we're coming up to lap 18, so nearly halfway through the race. I'm sure those two will get back into some top running positions, but for now it drops Koulios to that P8 position, and Pedro currently in that P4. Coming up to lap a fellow Lamborghini of Giles picking up a half-second penalty, so Pedro potentially is going to get past Giles, although he tucks in behind Giles at the moment for a little bit of slipstream, and stays behind at the moment.
She's gone all the way to the end of the tank on a full set of on the set of full wets, so good job to her. Toughing it through the first 18 laps of very changeable conditions on just that one set of tires. We have lost another car, and I don't believe that is Phil. That might be someone else that we've lost.
Let me have a little bit of a flick.
Yep. Just getting word, it was the 46 BMW. He has pulled off and is out of the race. He's opened the door and has climbed out of that car. He's done for the day.
See you later. Obviously, getting involved in a little bit of an incident in that first lap, and also obviously the BMW being a little bit hard to drive in these sort of conditions. And we all know the BMWs, they are very rear end happy, and that's just times by 100 in these sort of weather conditions. So hopefully we'll see Charlie back in the next race, and it'll be a nice dry one for him to get back and get that confidence back up in that BMW.
Dark Lord's come in.
Let's see what tyres he goes for now. I was just having a quick look.
I'm willing to bet this will be a set of inners here.
I think that would be the right call.
Seeing the water levels out there right now, we're not getting any close to that dark blue region, so... Oh, as he runs out of gas as he pulls into the box. Yeah, the intermediate tire will be the safe way to go here, I think. And now that puts the ball in Mercedes' court. Does he... Well, no. I was about to say, he's probably going to have to come in this time anyway for fuel.
I mean, it's very impressive, like you said earlier, that most of these drivers have managed to go around on that full tank of fuel on the same tyres that they started on. So we're 20 laps in, just goes to show in these sort of conditions, it can help people out, obviously, with tyre wear, and most of the drivers doing an awesome job not to burn through the tyres too badly. But I was just having a look. Who was it? It was Pedro. He did lose that position to Katie the Kai. Katie the Kai now up into that third place. Pedro not too far behind. Midnight just back to lap Giles here. Midnight having quite a quiet race, but quite a good race so far in that P5 position, keeping it clean and just keeping that McLaren circulating at the moment. Dark Lord has come out in that P8 position with Fodder not too far behind. Obviously, Fodder coming into pit a couple of laps ago, so this has put Fodder in a good position at the moment as well, trying to follow Dark Lord around.
I think Mercedes is coming in to cover the defending champion. He has, and he does have a little extra fuel, so he won't have to spend as much time fueling up. But the question is whether or not the undercut's going to be powerful here as we see Mac also coming in. He's out of gas. Katie the Kai's going to have to come in for gas. Pedro stays out another lap. As does Midnight. Giles obviously is on fresher rubber than anyone else around him, even though he is lapped. So he's all good. Pedro in the 77 takes over the lead of this race. And he's using every inch of the racetrack he can to keep those tires from burning themselves and lighting themselves on fire.
It's going to be close, you know, between... I was just keeping an eye on Dark Lord, just coming across that final corner now. Mercedes on about 85% of fuel. It's going to be close between the two, but I think Mercedes might actually get out in front of Dark Lord here. Dark Lord's just gone across the start-finish straight here. So that undercut has potentially worked, although they got...
He's on the dries!
Coming out the pits.
He's come out on the dries!
What?
Oh, it's going to be a slow crawl pit exit. That's still fully wet. But I was about to say, there is a drying line starting to appear on the track, and so long as he sticks to it, that might be something that works out in his favor later in the race. We're seeing Katie the Kai has come in, Iceman's come in, he's refueling. Kai comes out on softs. So we're seeing guys starting to gamble on the dry tire.
Yeah,
Fada's just... Oh, no, Fada! Oh, I thought he switched to wets. No, he has switched to the soft tire, as has Iceman.
I'll say either the Mercedes is either a madman or he's a strategic genius. We'll figure that out shortly. As Dark Lord gets a little bit on the wet patch there. Luckily, he's still on the the tires that gives him enough grip. But yeah, like you say, obviously all the other drivers have to be kind of crawling around. Especially when they're on the curbs, but when on that dry line, obviously they're using full use of those slick tyres. Well, I've just seen Dark Lord, he's trying to go onto the wet patch as much as he can to keep those tyres alive at the moment. But I've got to say, you know, it just goes to show, obviously, being vigilant on that weather radar really has helped Mercedes here, because you can kind of see the closing speed that Mercedes has on the Dark Lord, where Dark Lord is trying to find as much as he can, obviously the puddles on the track, to keep those tyres alive at the moment.
Yeah, those tires are going to have holes burned in them by the time the Dark Lord has to come in again for dry tires. That is, assuming this weather pattern holds. If this weather pattern holds, everyone on the dry tires is going to be advantaged. But I have a feeling guys pick the softs, because I think they're reading that more rain will come towards the end of the race. So they're not going to stay out too long on this dry tire. As we see, Pedro comes out on the medium, so he might be gambling a little bit on staying out longer. Midnight comes out on the inters. That 666 team, I don't think, has the faith in the dry tires as some of the other guys are right now. It's a mixed bag of strategy right now. You don't really know right now which one's going to work out.
No, but I'll tell you what, it's funny watching everyone crawl out of that pit exit. They're taking it as slow as they can, obviously, because we know how wet the pit exit is at the moment. But as soon as they're out of there, they can put their foot all the way down. And Kudos managed to keep in front of Pedro here. And Katie the Kai not too far behind Midnight. Midnight on the... Oh, he was on the wet patch there. Obviously, he, like you say, is on the intermediates, potentially missing the call that the other drivers made around him. Or, you never know, he might have spotted something on the radar, which is coming in a few laps' time. See, obviously, if Midnight made the right call there or not. But everyone else, obviously, gambling onto that the slick tyres. Giles coming in as well. Let's see what tyres he goes for. But I think at the moment, Dark Lord managing to hold off Mercedes just for now, but it's just quite funny to watch Dark Lord kind of pinging side to side, keeping on the wet stuff, where Mercedes is doing the complete opposite at the moment.
It's like Kimi at Abu Dhabi a few years ago, going straight on, and the straight while everyone else around him's warming up their tires on the formation lap. If we can compare the lap times quick between Dark Lord and Mercedes... Oh! Some caught your eye?
Yeah, Sophie unfortunately losing the Audi R8. I don't know if she was coming into the pits or not.
That's in turn 10, and she's hit something. I think she has. I think she was trying to get to the pit lane, and I think she's tagged the pit wall. She's tagged the separating wall, separating the racetrack at the pits, and now the front clip of that Mercedes is damaged. They're going to be ready with a hammer to get that thing fixed the best they can. But it's not going to be a pleasant one.
We've
Someone's
lost
gone
Katie
wide.
the Kai. We have lost Katie the Kai out of the race. A little bit of an incident going into turn 2, turn 3, whatever you want to call it. It seemed to go wide into the barrier, and then unfortunately out of thin air. Oh, and we've lost. Well, we're losing Kudos. He's sent spinning round into the gravel and over into the escape road. Skipping it across the gravel now to try and get back out onto the track.
Keep it running, keep it running, Kulios. Keep it running.
I think a little birdie has told me that it is starting to rain.
That's really going to disservice anyone on the dry tire. Mac realizes it immediately. He's come in. That might play into his favor here, being this proactive on the tire strategy here. Man, it's something that I called it a gamble for a reason to be on the dry tire, because as soon as you get offline, you're going around or you're going straight on, depending on how you enter a corner. As we see side by side for the lead between Mercedes and Dark Lord once again. Ooh, oh, they're both in the gravel, I think. I think they both got a piece in the gravel. Mercedes comes off better for it. He didn't get as much of it as the 6 did. I think he had all 4 tires on the gravel. But now, with the weather picking up, those intermediates are going to start hooking back up again.
Yeah, obviously, but although Mercedes tyres not looking too bad, where Dark Lord's intermediates are looking like they've seen better days, to say the least. But Mercedes making a very late call to come into the pits, so obviously that weather isn't looking like it's going to get any better. So potentially, obviously, they took the gamble and it worked for a couple of laps, made sure that he kept with Dark Lord. But I think Dark Lord anyway will have to come into the pit shortly, looking at those tyres as well. So I mean, the race is not over for Mercedes just yet. But I'm just keeping an eye on all those drivers that went onto those slick tyres.
Oh, Pedro!
They're crawling round.
Sorry to butt in. The weather's picked up for him. He got offline, and everyone on the dry tire right now is struggling. Pedro goes wide, as did Kulios about 3 seconds later. He's losing time to Mac, who's put on the... Mac's put on the intermediates, and he's already slicing through the field.
Yeah, unfortunately we lost Sophie in the gravel as well. And Iceman as well, crawling through turn 2, turn 3.
Someone else has gone around. We got one car around in the second sector, one backwards in Rint.
It is Kulios, I believe.
Yep, it is Kulios and Rint. He's gonna try he's gonna try crawling to the pits. This is absolute madness. The number 9 Lamborghini of Hockey's come in. Kulios comes in, Pedro's in. Well, this is advantage to 9 quite nicely, because that car was towards the back of the field earlier. Now that car is within the top, well within the top 10.
Let's go. Don't know who that number 9 is, but
you seem to be a big fan of this.
Yeah, they're alright. But talking about everyone else's race, Sophie coming into the pits as well, so she managed to keep hold of that Audi R8 for another lap to get it round into the pits. Like I say, might need a hammer out to fix that dent in the damage. Oh, it looked like a bit of fun there.
With Mercedes, yeah, he absolutely whipped the tail around there, holding on to it. Mac's also doing a little bit of that. I think the weather's picking up again. Not quite enough for the wet weather tire, but it's really picking up again.
Yeah, and it looked like all those drivers that went on those slicks were like, nope, no more of them, thank you.
The fastest of the weather change has been unbelievable. Pedro's gambled on the full wet tire, so that team might be telling him something about the wet weather coming up.
Yeah, it's quite a gamble there, obviously going on the wet tyres. He's obviously seen something, or like you say, his team has told him there is going to be more rain on the horizon, so keep those wet tyres alive as much as possible. But although saying that, he is drifting that Lamborghini round those final 2 corners, so it looks like the wet weather tyres might be in that favour of Pedro here, especially in that Lamborghini. Is a little bit of an annoying car to drive in these sort of conditions. But talking about Dark Lord, he's still in that P1 position, although his tyres have obviously seen better days. They're not as fresh as Mercedes. Mercedes is about, I'd say, 4 or 5 corners behind at the moment, but on a lot fresher rubber compared to Dark Lord. So the race isn't over between those two. But currently, sat quite comfortably in that P3 position is Midnight at the moment. Quite a comfortable race. Not had to do too much fighting. Just kept it nice and clean. Obviously making some unique strategy calls as well. He was one of the drivers that didn't come in for slicks, right?
Yeah, he didn't. He stayed on the intermediate tire when everyone else was switching to slick tires around him. So gamble paid off for the 666 car. The first half of Nighthawk Racing. Great strategy call by the 666 McLaren. Speaking of McLarens, it's starting to get heavier for the Dark Lord, and with his tires already worn, I can't imagine that car's going to be driving any good while Mercedes is headhunting him. As we see Giles, I think he's had a moment in turn 10 and has gained himself a half-second penalty. Getting beaten with his crutches after getting knocked down.
Yeah, the best way to explain what I saw Giles do was a nice little kind of dance move going around that final couple of corners. It did look like quite funny. I think a 360 going around the final corner, which obviously you don't want to do too much. But I'm sure feeling a little bit dizzy after that move. But he's managed to keep the Lamborghini moving. Obviously picking up a half-second penalty. A little bit harsh on the game. Obviously he quite couldn't do a lot because he was facing the wrong way. But the game decided to be a little bit mean to him, giving that half-second penalty. But it looks like Dark Lord is crawling around the final corners. Potentially, he's coming into the pits. Dark Lord is coming into the pits. I thought I saw him making a little bit of a move to the right-hand side, and he has. He's come into the pits looking for some fresher rubber. But Mercedes isn't that far behind, so Mercedes potentially could get back into the lead here.
Depending on how this lap goes for that number 50 car again, I've been seeing more team employees running to their respective tire suppliers' hauler, trying to get themselves some wet weather tires because of the rain that's come down here. I'm wondering if Dark Lord's going to switch to the full wets here, or if he's staying on the intermediates. Mercedes has gone off. He's not hit anything, but he's wide in turn 10. And he's got himself a half-second penalty. He's lucky he didn't get any more. And the Dark Lord comes out on the wet weather tire, but he's got a 3-second time penalty for the late decision to come in. He crossed the pit entry line, so he's got 3 seconds to serve, while Mercedes only has half a second.
I don't know about you, but that might take the win off Dark Lord here. Just trying to think about the maths. I don't think Dark Lord is going to be able to keep that lead come obviously that penalty zone.
Man,
although he did manage to get the accelerator down a little bit more compared to Mercedes there. But I don't know about you. I just have that bad feeling that Dark Lord is going to lose out massively here.
I don't know. He's pulling quite the gap now that he's on the full wet weather tire. Hang on a minute. Has he lapped? He's lapped Nigel. He's lapped into the top. Oh wait, no. Sorry, wrong orange car. That's Sophie.
I mean, that's quite impressive still as well. I was going to say, like, whoa, how fast has he been going?
The Dark Lord has pulled a significant gap on. Yeah, he's not losing that lead here. So the decision to come in for the full wets is a great one. I saw a TWR guy coming back with a car to wet weather tires, so he's probably delivered that to the garage that his car is going to be occupying, and I imagine they're going to be coming in within a lap or two. Wow! Dark Lord with a big slide there.
Yeah, I think Dark Lord was briefly facing the barrier there. That must have been pretty scary for him, but manages to keep hold of that McLaren and facing the right way. These two here, the top two, you know the weather's bad when the top two are drifting around the corners and having a little bit of a slip and slide. I think all the drivers should pat themselves on the back for managing to hold. There is a yellow flag in Sector 2, I believe, didn't quite catch what happened, but it has gone back to full greens now. Potentially something to review after the race. But yeah, talking about the I forgot what I was talking about now. We've got so much going on in this race that it's so easy to lose train of thought. But the top two are battling those cars round into the second sector, and the rain doesn't look like it's getting any lighter. The drivers on those wet weather tyres potentially have made the right call here.
Yep, although it has gone slightly down. It's not much to say right now when we've got coming to 12 to go this time. But if you tough it out on the inners and the weather starts lightening up a little, that swings the pendulum back to them. And the wet weather tire will be burning up in intermediate range, and not grip nearly as well. And not necessarily in the way that the dry tires don't grip on this wet of a surface. Wet weather tire, the full wets, outside of their operating conditions, they're gonna... Oh, someone's had a spin. It's Giles again, and this time he's clobbered the wall with the front end, so he's gonna lose out on 11th here. He's gonna have to get out of the way of Sophie here, make sure he doesn't LePage her. This one's not gone well for Giles. Despite how fitting the livery seems to be tonight, it's not gone well for him.
Yeah, obviously incorporating those waves, and I think the weather has come in waves for Giles here, unfortunately today. I was on board with him when it happened. It looked like he put that throttle down just a little bit too early in the corner, and obviously the Lamborghini going, no way Jose, I'm not going I'm not going on that power here and facing on the wrong way. But unfortunately, like I say, does lose that position to Sophie. Sophie, obviously, after that little bit of damage in the spin that she had a few laps ago, is managing to get that pace back in the Audi R8 in that P11 spot at the moment. Iceman having a little bit of a quieter race, but keeping full control over that Genesis at the moment, and I'm sure eager to make quite a few positions up. Everyone else seems to be just kind of...
Whoa! As you talk about him, he's almost spotted again, coming out of turn 8.
I think he must have heard me talking about him and went, watch this! But,
he knew the cameras were on him.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that as well. I'm very guilty for doing something like that when the camera's been on me. I've been like, yeah, watch this, watch my skills. But it looks like Fodder is looking to lap Giles here, potentially. I'm just having a look at everyone else. Everyone's kind of settled into this weather here that we've got. Although saying that, Mac having a little bit of a drift coming out of the corner. But that gap between Mercedes and Dark Lord has stabilised a little bit here. Dark Lord having a little bit of a gap to Mercedes, so having a little bit of a breather, I'm sure. Obviously, these two have battled side by side for the majority of the race, so I'm sure the two enjoying a little bit of not peace and quiet, but a little bit of less pressure on the two of them. See, lap 31, we've got 10 laps left of this race, so it's all still to play for. But Pedro getting on the curbs there, drifting around the corner. Mac nearly making that Ferrari into an airline. Just saw him clobber that sausage curb on the inside of turn 1, getting some air, and managing to keep that Ferrari facing the way. But what's been your standout moment race so far? I mean, it's pretty hard to choose from. We've had quite a few battles and quite a few side-by-side action. But if you had to pick one, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tricky one here. That might have been Mercedes' move on Dark Lord the first time to get the lead from him. Honestly, that whole battle probably could be the highlight of the race so far. Those two have not really given each other much quarter. Obviously, right now they're in a bit of a lull, having a breather. But those two have been at it all race. We thought Dark Lord would have run away with it, but as soon as the rain came, it's turned the race on its head, and it's made it a tight competition for the win.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got to fully agree with you there. That's kind of been my standout highlight from the race so far. I mean, it's very rare in the wet weather racing that we get kind of that intense of a battle. So obviously those two showing that you can do it. Obviously you have to do it a little bit more carefully compared to the dry, but it's fully able to battle that close. And I was just talking about battling close. Just went on board with Pedro and Nigel here, going side by side these final couple corners. Pedro taking that outside line, Nigel on the inside line, both breaking. Oh, Nigel coming across the front of Pedro there, nearly catching Pedro out by surprise, but the door's open, Pedro goes through it and says thank you very much, Nigel, for that move.
a little bit of bumper scratching on both those cars. Otherwise, no damage to either one. I think something might have happened up there. Yep, someone's gone around turn 8.
I think it was Sophie, but I think from I was just watching on board from Fodder's point of view. He was coming across. Sophie obviously had the spin, and the two were facing, each other right in the eye. I think Fodder nearly had a Kobe Brown moment there because he came around the corner and saw an Audi R80 facing right towards him, doing an incredible job of avoiding Sophie in that R8. But I think Fodder did well to avoid that incident there. But maybe a Kobe Brown moment for Fodder.
And the leader, Dark Lord, I think he might be closing in on Fodder. If I have a look here, no, I'm confusing him with another car. My mistake. He's coming up on 10th place.
It's Iceman, I think. I can see in the distance.
The Genesis of Iceman in 10th place. Holding on to that 10th place for dear life. Granted, he's not had as much work as he could have with Giles and Sophie having... Sophie having issues. Throughout the race, he's being given the blues. He'll have to move when he is able to. The idea is to get out of the way as soon as possible without impeding the leader. He's going to do that right into Remus. Stays out of the racing line. Nice and easy.
Yeah, nicely done.
Mercedes. He's got a half-second penalty. I think he might have run wide either in turn 10 or in turn 1. And he'll have to serve that, so...
Yeah, and he's losing a little bit of sight to Dark Lord here. When on board with Mercedes, you can just about see Dark Lord in the distance here. So, scrap what I said about Dark Lord driving in the wet earlier. He seems to have practiced on the off-season and showing what he's fully capable of doing. Obviously, showing his champion material. Although Mercedes, I still think we've still got quite a few laps left to go, so it's all, to play for, I think, between the two top drivers here. And especially the podium, the last step of the podium between McManley and Midnight here, it's again still all to play for. About a corner separates those two, the Ferrari and the McLaren. So I'll be eager to keep an eye out between these two as well if the battle heats up. But having a quick little look amongst everyone else, seems to have stabilised. Not an intense battle going across in that mid pack. Pedro seems to... as I said, that Pedro was drifting around that middle part of the course here. Like I said earlier, the Lamborghini is woken up. It's still awake at the moment, but I think obviously it's starting to die down a little bit, that of that Lamborghini. But I think Pedro should be very happy with that P5 at the moment, considering obviously the start of the race he was facing the wrong way.
Yep, absolutely. He was also in that first lap incident. We are in that crossover period again between whether the Inters or the Wets are going to be the better tire. We're right at the ragged edge between them, so I wonder if this might actually be the point where both tires perform, I don't want to say equally, but they're both going to be at home right now. Though I will say, Dark Lord I think did get an advantage over Mercedes in the last 5 laps because of the weather and the tire he's on. He's still on the full wets. The rest of the top 5 ahead of Pedro, they're all on the intermediate tire. Pedro's still on the wets. It's interesting to see how these guys have been able to tackle this challenge, because the weather's not stayed consistent whatsoever today. It's been a bit like home in Ohio. It chooses to do one thing, then 5 minutes later it chooses to do another thing.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know about you, but I find the interchangeable weather conditions, honestly, one of the most hardest kind of conditions to battle with as a driver, because obviously 1 minute it's fully wet, next minute it could be fully dry, and it's about adapting to adapting your driving style, obviously changing your tyres, making sure that you're on the right strategy. as a driver, it's incredibly hard to, make the right decision call, and obviously change that driving style while the weather's changing itself. There's so many kind of different factors that you have to keep on top of. So yeah, honestly, I find it one of the most difficult conditions to be faced with, and also to drive through. So I've got to give massive props to these drivers for dealing with it and showing us what they can do, really.
Not only is it difficult, it's very frustrating, especially if you don't get it right. I know I've been burned a few times switching either too early or too late, and the weather switches back on me. Thankfully, I don't think we've had anyone get burned that way today so far. Maybe the dry tire gamble, but really, it's worked pretty well for the most part for these guys. We're seeing now, though, the pendulum swung back to the intermediate runners. We're outside the full wet weather tire operating window. We're coming to 6 to go this time as soon as Dark Lord crosses the line. This is going to get interesting here.
It is, and just having a little look across the field as well. It looks like obviously Midnight not coming into pitting earlier and keeping on the intermediate tires. I was just wondering if he's got enough fuel. It looks like he's got plenty of fuel, I think.
Yeah, I think he can make it the rest of the way here. But I'm also wondering if he's not ruling out the possibility that this race ends dry, so that he can come in on the dry tire, capitalize on the guy still trying to tough it out on a wet weather tire.
Maybe steal that fastest lap point.
Yep, either steal the fastest lap, or do a little Motorsport Manager and climb his way back through the field.
Interesting. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. He makes some weird calls at times. So maybe potentially one of them might be coming into the pits. Although I think he's cottoned on to the fact that McManley's not too far behind here. So I think that might make his decision that a little bit more difficult to make into this closing stage of the race. So I'll be eager to see what decision he does make. But it is midnight at the end of the day, so expect some wild and crazy ideas to pop into his head.
Yeah, having company back there is definitely going to make things a little trickier, because you have to think about what they're going to do. If you stay out, they might come in to try doing the opposite, do what they don't do. If you come in, they might stay out, and if you make the wrong strategy decision, they're the one that capitalizes on it for that final podium position. And that's something I'm sure Midnight's got going in the back of his head here, as we see the Dark Lord going a little wide out of turn 1, kicking up a little bit of spray. Actually, I was talking about the track drying up. It's really drying up right now. We're down well below 50%. We're about 35% on the driest line. We might see guys possibly taking one last gamble at the soft tire.
Yeah, and as you can already tell, with Mercedes there being on the intermediate tyres, setting a purple sector 1, it just goes to show, obviously, like I said earlier, that pendulum has potentially swung into the intermediates' favour. And I was just having a look at Dark Lord as well, taking action, obviously going onto the wet line, trying to keep those wet tyres alive. So I think the battle is definitely on between these two again here. Mercedes is going to try and drive the socks off of this GTR to catch up to the Dark Lord. They're about, I'd say, 2 corners apart from each other, so not too far. And obviously, I don't know about Dark Lord here. Dark Lord will be trying to make as little mistakes as possible to keep hold of that win.
Yeah, the main thing now, coming to 4 to go, do you stay out, tough it out on this intermediate tire? Because there are still plenty of wet spots around the track, but it's not going to be the fastest way around. And something I caught on about a lap or 2 ago, about 3 laps ago, the tires on both Dark Lord and Mercedes' cars were pristine, not a bit of wear on them. Now, they're having some significant red on the display there. They're getting burned up, they're getting worn out. 4 to go. How long do either one of those tires make it?
It's going to be close, I reckon. Yeah, I mean, I was just having a look at this battle as well between Midnight and McManley. That's got closer since the last time that we kept an eye on them. I think both trying to keep those tyres alive, although Midnight's obviously been a lot older than McManley's here. So Midnight really trying to wrestle that McLaren round for these final few laps. And like we said earlier, potentially he might pit for the softs, but I think it's that difficult decision. Do you want to keep hold of the podium track position? Or do you want to go for a little bit of a gamble and go on those slick tyres? Because, yeah, I think obviously, as we can see with that dry line, it's going under that, I'd say that third where the slick tyres are definitely runnable. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone does make that very last minute decision to come into the pits. Looks like everyone's kind of comfortable at the moment. But we are going on to lap 39 now, so the time obviously is running out for them to make those sort of decisions. And it looks like Mercedes has got a little bit closer to the Dark Lord here. About a corner separates them now, so the battle is on between those two. Mercedes is taking full use of those curbs now, so he's not afraid to put that GTR on the curbs and try and use the full
gone
width
ahead
of
of
that
Midnight,
track.
going into Rint, sorry to butt in. He's finally done the overtake on the 666. And I will also say about the battle for the lead, if there's a set of tire you'd rather want to be on when the track's dry, you'd rather be on the intermediate tire. Those wets are going to burn a lot quicker that are on the number 6 car, and they're going to run out of grip much quicker. You're already seeing it. The 6 is starting to drift through corners, and the 50 closing in as a result. The wet patches are no longer full wet patches, they're intermediate patches. So, while the Dark Lord is able to cool off the tires, they're not going to nearly have as much grip as he would like.
I don't know about you, but I saw how much...
No!
Oh,
Mercedes has gone off in the gravel! That might be it! He's gone off in the gravel, understeered! That might be it, assuming the Dark Lord doesn't drop it, as he has a wicked sideways moment.
I was going to say, I caught on before that corner. I was going to say that Mercedes did take up a lot of grass there. I saw him flicking up the grass, and I thought, oh no, he'll be all right. Come the next corner, completely different story. He was kind of a little bit more grass than what I thought he was, and he lost a lot of time.
Had another opposite lock going into turn 10. That's not how you want to take turn 10 whatsoever. We're at 2 to go right now. All Dark Lord has to do right now is keep that car in a straight line. At this point, don't worry about pace. Just keep it on the gray. Don't worry about the grass. Don't worry about the red and white trim around the track. Don't even get it on the AstroTurf or curbing. Just keep it on the gray and get this thing home in one piece.
Sometimes that's the hardest bit to do, though, keeping it on the road. I think obviously it just shows how much he's pushing that GTR. He's using literally all of the track and a little bit, even though it's not the most optimal to use a little bit of grass. But all in all, I don't think it lost him that much time to the Dark Lord. He's still within reach. Obviously, we've got, I'd say a lap and a half left, so it's a little made his job a little bit harder. Although the
this
Dark
makes
Lord,
things interesting. He's low on fuel. The leader is low on fuel. He might have, at most, a lap left in the tank. So he's going to have... Not only is he going to have to keep this thing on the road to stay ahead of Mercedes, he might have to short shift or even trim to get this thing to the finish without using its emergency power.
I don't know about you, but I think he started short shifting like mad now, because look at the gap between the two. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Whoa! Oh!
I don't need to ask what we both were looking at that point, because you can tell we were both captivated by that drift by Mercedes there. But the gap between the two has really come down. You can tell Dark Lord is shifting, short shifting like mad here, but also potentially he's running that car on fumes. So I think it's going to come down to the last couple of corners. It could swing into Mercedes. Dark Lord's got half a second penalty.
Oh no! I think he's got it at turn 1. on the exit of Lauda, as we've been saying it all broadcast, this is one of the easiest things to do around this track is get yourself a half-second time penalty. Now, the job has gone even harder on the number 6. I didn't even think that was possible to make it this hard. He said, you know what, screw legendary mode. We're going to go one step further. And he'll have to serve that penalty, this time, as the 50 is bearing down a lot quicker.
This could be it. Like we said earlier, this could be it. This could be Mercedes' moment to get that first feature race win. Obviously, Darklord putting off to the side now, burning that penalty, and Mercedes has managed to get past, but only a couple corners left. Will Darklord be able to get back into that first place? I don't think he'll be able to do it.
Nope, he's gone too far out. Mercedes, just keeping on the road, buddy. He does. The number 50 TWR Mercedes wins the feature race at Red Bull Ring in a thrilling battle with Darklord GT as Giles, one more for good measure. He's hit the back end of the car at the exit of turn 10. He'll come up. Oh, look out! Oh, look out, Iceman! Iceman comes 10th. Giles 12th, officially on the road. Mac will take the final podium position ahead of Midnight.
Yeah,
Pedro
coming around
with
the final few
brilliant
corners
5th place. He's got no one around him. That's going to be a brilliant 5th place after the kind of race he's had to endure today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
What a race!
Fodder as well coming across the final couple of corners now. Again, I think Fodder should be, thoroughly happy with a P6 position. Not too bad, obviously, considering the first half of the race was a little bit difficult in that Porsche, but P6, nothing to frown about. We're joining Nigel as well in P7. Got no one behind him as of now, so he's just cruising around the front. Oh, couple corners. As I said
damage.
That, he's spinning. He's got one more corner to go. Come on, Nigel.
Come on, get it in gear. Get it in gear. Go. Go, man, go.
I think that left rear tyre died as we joined him. And obviously sent
that tire's gone down.
Around.
The left front's completely damaged. He's not out of fuel yet, but he's short shifting like crazy. He holds on to 7th. Coolio's 8th. Sophie officially comes across the line 11th. And there's the number 9 Lamborghini, also with the dead left rear. Coming across the line, 9th place. And the last official car to cross the line, Phil will be credited with 13th, despite being the first car to retire.
Yeah, he's I think he's had the best seat in the house during this race. He's kept dry. He's not had to make some unique strategy calls, so he's just been able to watch the race on the big telly. But I think obviously we did unfortunately lose quite a few people due to DNFs. But I think all the finishers should definitely pat themselves on the back. Not the easiest race by any means with those changing conditions. I mean, we've seen interweather, we've seen full wet weather, we've seen even the slick tyres, which we didn't think we'd see today. So it's really been a race that threw everything at these drivers. So I think everyone should be, thoroughly proud of their performances. Not an easy race. And I think everyone did an awesome job. And again, what a battle between the Darklord and Mercedes there. Cutting it fine between the two. And it just goes to show, even picking up that penalty on the last lap, it did unfortunately ruin Darklord's chance of a win. But it just goes to show as well, Mercedes managing to keep with Darklord for the majority of the race, put him in a good position to nick that lead.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant strategy call there. We weren't sure about it with about 5 to go, but then the rain started lightening up, and it came right to him. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. In this case, both of those guys were a bit of both throughout the race.
But obviously, here comes the most difficult decision of all. Who would you pick as driver of the day?
That's a great question. We've had so many good drives today. I'm going to have to give it to the driver of the 77 Lambo, Pedro. Coming back from facing backwards in turn 3 on Remus. not an easy way to come back to a race. He climbed all the way to 5th with great strategy and excellent pace. I think he gets the nod from me.
Yeah, I think I was definitely a good pick by yourself there. I'm going to give my driver of the day to... I'm going to say Mercedes. A double. I think he did win the sprint race, so we got on the podium. Yeah, he did win the sprint race, so a double win for Mercedes here at the Red Bull Ring. I think we found his new favourite circuit of the season. So I'm definitely going to give him my driver of the day, and I think obviously that's boosted his confidence in that GTR. The start of the season, it's a difficult car to get used to, but I think obviously today he's really found his performance in the GTR. So I'm going to give it to Mercedes. So a joint driver today between Mercedes and Pedro. I think there's a lot of honourable mentions that we could shout out for a lot of people, especially obviously during that feature race, because what a race that was with the different weather scenarios that were thrown at the drivers, and obviously having some of the drivers having to endure a little bit of spinneroonies and facing the wrong way for a little bit. So I think everyone that finished the race again should be proud of themselves. But obviously that brings us on to closing out Red Bull Ring, Red Lobby action, and then obviously we'll look to see what the Blue Lobby got on with, and hopefully they had some fun in their race as well. But obviously, thank you, Jared, for joining me. Hopefully you've had fun, and hopefully the drivers have made your job even that a little bit harder. Obviously you can now see how hard it is to keep on top of everybody, but thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you back in Portugal at some point again during the season. But handing over to you for anything you want to say.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. This was a very difficult race to start off with, but I can't imagine a more fun scenario to do it with. Absolutely bonkers strategy in racing. Just, it doesn't get any better than this with GT racing, does it? Cars sliding around in changeable conditions, trying to figure everything out. You've got all sorts of mania breaking out around you. All you have to do is keep your head composed, and I think all 12 of our finishers did a great job of doing that despite what was around them.
Yeah, I think couldn't have said it better myself. But we'll hand over to the Blue Lobby commentators, and obviously passing the baton on to them. Hopefully they have a good race, but I'm sure you'll see both me and Jared at the high speed ring, and hopefully the weather's a little bit nicer there, and we have a little bit more of an easier race in terms of weather and different challenges being thrown at the drivers. So thank you very much again. I will see you in the next one.
Round 3, I was hoping to have good pace in the qualifying. I mean, I missed round 2, unfortunately, because I was away. So round 3 was basically my round 2. Car felt super quick in qualifying, was saying purple sectors in sector 1 and 2, and whatever it was about sector 3, the car just like, it's as if the tires were just giving up in the last sector. I was getting purple sectors, and the lap just didn't come, and I ended up qualifying midfield like I did around 1. This Ferrari has just been dreadful on qualifying pace. It's I just can't figure it out. And then the sprint race was okay. P6 wasn't too bad, could have been better, but it's just really hard to get through the field when you're starting at the back with the average points being set in the grid for the sprint. But podium for the feature race was pretty nice, and good points for myself for the season.
The car had some issues managing throughout the race with its fuel consumption. Given it's a Red Bull Ring, a front-engine car would have an advantage on its tires as it's more balanced and wear. So the car had that advantage, but no advantage comes with its disadvantage of it drinking its fuel compared to other cars on the grid, like a Ferrari or a Nissan, something like that. The weather was quite interesting. It brought a dynamic element into the race. The rain coming in at different parts of the race, where you are on the track, you could get caught out quite easily. Luckily for me, I didn't get caught out. But I did have a mishap trying to pit at the middle of the race, if I remember correctly. I tried to go for a pit. I missed the pit entry, and to avoid getting the pit entry penalty, I had to pull back out and had to drive on the wet track, sliding and fishtailing all over the place and losing a bunch of time. It was like 50-50 between losing time with almost spinning out and just taking the penalty and getting the strategy done and out the way. It was quite the risk, but it did pay itself off. I think the 3-second penalty would have been a bit too gnarly for that acceleration zone. You really don't take it at those places. Yeah, coming so close to P1 at the end. I have no idea why he pitted when he did. He had a win on his hand. I pitted again after the fact because I couldn't catch him, so I just go for a fast lap to try and make back up the points difference, you know? Well, him pitting brought that race that much closer. So, in a way, I can thank P1 for that. Actually bringing some sort of suspense into the race, you know? Yeah, the weather wasn't the only dynamic effect. Also, the traffic on the track had also brought another dynamic effect into the race. Having to weave in and out of traffic, choosing where to overtake, where to not overtake. If the traffic is slow, that you'll catch up to them at a bad point, or you're quick enough to beat them to a certain point that the car behind will get stuck behind them. All sorts of things. Overall, the race was quite good. I quite enjoyed it, and I am glad to have been a part of the race, and I'm looking forward to round 3 at High Speed Ring Reverse, which hopefully the rain should bring into my favor to hopefully get another podium or even a race win. Anyway, thank you for having me. Good day.
Round 3 was a tale of 2 races. The Audi was so quick in the dry, but so bad in the wet. Managed to go all out and get P2 in the sprint just ahead of Dark Lord, which was amazing. Come the feature race, I made bad choices on tyres, which didn't help with the Audi not having enough rear grip in the wet, and I think I finished outside the top 10.
Had a good qualifying to set me up in second place on the rolling start due to the weather. Lost a couple of positions due to a mistake and a quicker driver. Then the rain started to die down and drivers started to pit for intermediates. I decided to stay out a bit longer, hope the track would dry really fast, but it wasn't. It got to the end of lap 20 and I was nearly out of fuel, needing to pit, and the track was still damp. I wasn't sure what to do for tyres, take intermediates and then be pitting in 4 or 5 laps, or risk it and just put the softs on. I choose to risk it. That did cost me a few positions, but I knew it saved me a pit stop, and with the track drying up it gave me a chance to go on the attack once the tyres kicked in. Got back up to third where I stayed. Did get worried near the end as Sitterly was catching me, and was thinking back to the sprint race at Dragon Trail where I cost myself 2 road place to him. Was thinking to myself, don't do the same again. Luckily I held on. Great race from everyone in tricky conditions.
Nighthawk racing, feel the burn around each turn. Victories earned, passing rivals, nothing's assumed. On the track we are consumed. Adrenaline rush, heartbeats race. The thrill of speed taking place. Defend the lead, it's not a chase. Gran Turismo sets a pace. Under moonlit skies we soar. Every past makes spirits roar. Defending honor, never bored. Speeding kings on asphalt floors. Through the stadiums we fly by. Cheering crowds lighting the sky. Nighthawk warriors reaching high. No defeat will dignify. Nighthawk racing, feel the burn around each turn. Victories earned, passing rivals, nothing's assumed. On the track we are consumed.
We race in the ring. No need to